Hi guys. Tonight we step together into the frozen twilight. The last streaks of daylight are already sinking behind ridges of stone, and your breath fogs with every exhale. You feel the air sharp and cold enough to sting your lungs, and the earth beneath your feet crunches like glass. The world outside is not gentle. This is winter at its harshest, when every creature struggles to survive the night. And yes, if you were dropped here without preparation, you probably wouldn't make it past sunrise. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And please tell me in the comments where you are and what time of night it is right now. Now dim the lights, and together we'll slip into the world of caves, where warmth, sleep, and survival blend in ways our ancestors depended on. You trudge forward, snow catching at your ankles, the horizon fading into slate-gray shadows. Somewhere far behind, the sun has given up its last warmth, leaving nothing but a pale afterglow. The bite of wind lashes against your cheeks, fierce and unforgiving. Every part of you longs for shelter, and just ahead, you see the dark mouth of a cave. Nothing more than a hollow carved by time and weather, yet to you, it feels like hope itself. You know that, step inside and the rules of the world change. Here, the air steadies, the storm muffles, and night promises rest rather than exposure. The first step across that threshold is startling. One moment your ears are ringing with gusts, the next silence descends. You smell damp stone tinged with minerals and a faint, earthy musk that seeps from the ground itself. The cold is still present, of course, but softened, more subtle, as if the stone holds the air close. In fact, geologists have noted that caves maintain steadier temperatures than the surface, often hovering near the mean annual temperature of the region. This means that even in the depths of glacial winters, the cave temperature doesn't swing as wildly as the blizzards outside. That stable atmosphere would have been a lifesaver for early humans seeking not just shelter, but true rest. Your eyes adjust slowly, finding shapes. Uneven walls, stones jutting like ribs, and patches of darker shadow where recesses dive deeper. You feel the ground firm beneath your boots, smooth in places, littered with pebbles in others. Your fingertips brush the stone. It is cool, slightly slick, as though polished by countless hands long before yours. You can almost sense them. People crouched here, huddled with children, carrying meat from the hunt, stacking firewood. Imagine them stepping in with you, whispering in languages lost to time. Archaeologists often remark on how natural shelters like this became prime winter refuges. Evidence of soot layers high on cave ceilings shows that fires burned here season after season. And yet, historians still argue whether groups stayed all winter long or used caves as temporary stopovers. Some point to heavy deposits of ash, bones, and tools that suggest long-term residence, while others believe groups moved regularly, never staying too long in one place for fear of exhausting local resources. You may picture them either way. A band of kin making this hollow their winter nest, or wanderers passing through, grateful just for a few nights of warmth. As you settle on a ledge inside, listening to the faint whistle of air at the entrance, you notice how sound changes here. Outside, the world roared with wind. Inside, even your breathing seems louder, reverberating against the stone. The acoustics of caves fascinated early people, too, though not always in ways we fully understand. Some researchers speculate that echoing chambers inspired ritual singing or drum beats. But in your case right now, it simply means you can hear your own heartbeat calming after the struggle through the snow. It's a steady thump that reassures you are safe, at least for tonight. Imagine now the faint orange flicker of firelight beginning at the center of the chamber. Sparks catch, then wood snaps, releasing smoke that curls upward. The warmth radiates unevenly, reaching your shins first, then slowly brushing your face. The smell of charred resin fills the air, sharp yet comforting. Fire means more than heat. It is the line between life and death. The reason you can stretch out, sigh, and drift towards sleep without fear of freezing. It is also quite literally a clock. Without modern timekeeping, the fire's glow marked the hours. Brighter flames meant evening chatter. Dwindling embers meant sleep was near. But before you lie down, you think of what cushions the ground. Stone is unyielding, its chill creeping into bones. So you spread furs, perhaps from reindeer or bear, layered with straw or dried moss. These crude mattresses were surprisingly effective. Experimental archaeologists today have even built replicas, finding that moss mixed with pine needles resists insects and smells pleasantly fresh. A quirky tidbit. Some evidence suggests Neanderthals used ashes sprinkled into bedding as natural pest control. A primitive but clever trick against lice and fleas. So you shift your weight onto those makeshift layers, and already you feel the difference. The stone no longer presses at your spine, and instead you sink into a nest softer than expected. As the fire crackles and smoke drifts, you notice the rhythm of others around you. Kinfolk draw close, voices hushed, hands busy with small chores. A child coughs. Someone hums low. The group folds into itself, a circle of life against the void outside. Here in the flicker, with darkness pressing at the edges, the world feels small and contained. The outside blizzard cannot touch you. Wolves prowl but cannot enter. And so you breathe deeper, slower, ready to let the weight of the day slip away. The cave becomes a cocoon. Your eyelids droop. The warmth from the hearth combines with the insulating walls, cradling you like a second skin. The snowstorm still rages beyond. But for you tonight, sleep will come easier than it ever could beneath open skies. The smell of damp stone lingers around you, soft yet insistent, clinging to your nostrils like a memory you cannot quite place. It is neither pleasant nor foul, something in between, something deeply ancient. You breathe it in, and it reminds you of earth after rain, of basements left untouched, of minerals slowly weeping down the walls. It feels heavy, grounding, almost like the cave itself is drawing you closer into its chest. You lie still for a moment, realizing that this is the smell your ancestors would have known intimately. The smell of safety when winter clawed at the world outside. Close your eyes, and you can sense how the cave transforms once you commit to staying inside. Outside, the wind shrieks, slicing like invisible knives, yet in here the air stills. There is cold, of course, but it is stable, less biting, more a cool embrace that does not change hour by hour. Modern scientists explain this phenomenon with simple physics. Stone absorbs and releases heat slowly, so it regulates extremes. For prehistoric families, that meant fewer shocks. To the system, fewer icy blasts at night. A small detail, but one that could decide who thrived and who perished. You shift slightly, pressing your hand against the rock floor. It is damp. Moisture seeps here, condensing as tiny droplets that glisten like pearls along the rough surface. In the dim firelight, they sparkle faintly, winking back at you. That dampness is not just decoration. It meant water nearby, dripping from stalactites or collecting in shallow basins. Imagine the convenience. Never straying far for a sip, never wandering into the dark forest in search of a stream while predators lurked. Still, historians debate whether such moisture made caves more of a burden. Some argue that damp stone chilled the body too much, worsening ailments like arthritis or coughs. Others counter that clever bedding layers of hides, branches, and ash offset the cold. You may find yourself siding with the latter, because as you lie here with furs beneath you, the damp doesn't feel like a threat. It feels like background music. There's a quirky observation from archaeologists when they recreate ancient living spaces inside caves. They often remark on the cave smell sticking to their clothes for days. It's a potent combination of minerals, ash, and dampness. That smell would have been part of every waking and sleeping moment for early humans. Children would have grown up with it embedded in memory, like how modern people recall the scent of home cooking or a familiar blanket. For you, lying here in the dark, it becomes strangely comforting, even hypnotic, drawing you deeper into drowsiness. Your ears catch the faint sound of dripping water somewhere further inside. A steady plink, plink, plink. Each drop echoes, stretching into the silence as though the cave itself is speaking. Some anthropologists believe these natural sounds influenced the rhythms of prehistoric sleep. Without clocks or electricity, the body listened to cues like this. Drip patterns, crackling fire, howling wind outside. They formed an organic lullaby. And though historians still argue whether people of that era experienced segmented sleep, waking in the middle of the night for a first and second slumber, the evidence suggests that these natural cues shaped when and how deep they drifted off. You inhale again, and this time the smell shifts. Smoke has mixed with dampness, forming a perfume of char and stone. It scratches your throat slightly, but your body adjusts. There is a peculiar trick the cave plays on smoke. Instead of dissipating quickly like outdoors, it lingers, curling and thickening, staining ceilings black. Archaeologists often point to those soot marks as fingerprints of long occupation. They are history written in ash. The downside: smoke irritated eyes, lungs, and sleep. Yet somehow bodies adapted. You may feel the sting, but you also recognize that for early humans, smoky air signaled warmth and community. It was worth the price of a tickle in the throat. The air is not stagnant, though. Even as smoke drifts upward, faint currents circulate. At the cave entrance, icy wind still pushes in, colliding with warmer air from the fire. This mingling creates a strange draft. You feel it sweep across your skin, cool but refreshing. You tug a hide closer to your shoulders, shivering lightly. Yet it feels good to notice the contrast. Sleep, after all, often comes easiest when the air is cooler, when blankets trap heat against the body. Modern sleep science echoes this. Humans rest best in slightly cool conditions, not stifling ones. Perhaps our ancestors already knew this by instinct, arranging fires so they did not overheat the chamber, but kept it just cool enough for rest. You roll onto your side, eyes half closed, and notice how shadows dance across the wall. The uneven stone makes shapes. One moment a bison's head, another moment the curve of a human face. Those shapes would not go unnoticed by early humans, either. They might have whispered stories connecting shadow forms to myths. Imagine a child pointing to the wall saying they see a bear, and the group weaving a tale that drifts into the night. The cave becomes more than shelter. It becomes theater. Your dreams, when they arrive, will carry pieces of those shifting silhouettes. But for now, it is still the smell of damp stone that holds your attention. It wraps around your senses like a blanket, heavy but reassuring. Think of how different this is from sleeping in open air. Out there, every gust brings new scents: pine, wet fur, decay of leaves. In here, the smell is consistent, unchanging. Consistency is comfort. It tells your brain you're in the same place, the same refuge. Nothing has altered. That familiarity lulls you into a deeper trust, the foundation of rest. Mainstream accounts remind us that caves were not universally chosen. Many groups built huts or shelters even in winter. Yet caves offered this unique stability of air and smell. That lingering mineral scent signaled continuity across nights, perhaps even across generations. Historians wonder whether returning to the same cave season after season gave families a sense of identity, like a recurring winter home. Some researchers even suggest the caves became ancestral sites, places tied to memory and ritual. You can feel that possibility here when the scent fills your lungs. It feels almost sacred, as though others before you also breathed it in, also sighed with relief. Your body responds slowly to these cues. Muscles unclench. Breathing evens out. The stone smell may not be sweet, but it signals safety. You let your head rest against a folded fur, cheek pressed into its rough softness. Around you, the others settle, too, their movements small and deliberate. A cough here, a shuffle there, but gradually all fades. The cave fills with steady rhythms of breathing. It is like a chorus of rest, each person contributing a note to the lullaby. You drift within it, carried by the mixture of stone, smoke, and warmth. A final curious thought comes to you before sleep pulls harder. Some modern cavers claim they dream more vividly after long hours in caves, attributing it to air composition, darkness, or acoustics. Could it be that your ancestors also dreamed more vividly here, their stories more colorful because the environment itself encouraged it? Historians have no clear answer. They still debate whether cave life sharpened imagination or dulled it. But as your eyelids droop, you suspect the former. Because the cave is not empty. It hums with water drops, whispers with drafts, and perfumes the air with damp stone. It feels alive, and in its presence your mind is already half in the realm of dreams. You pull the fur higher, nestle deeper into the bedding, and let the stone smell seep into every sense. Safe, grounded, and suspended in this cavern womb, you yield to the night. You crouch closer to the center of the chamber, watching as sparks jump from flint to tinder, and fire begins its slow transformation from fragile ember to roaring life. Your hands ache from the cold, knuckles stiff, but you strike again and again, determined to coax warmth out of stone. At last, the tinder smolders. A thin thread of smoke rises, and then, like magic, the first flame appears. It dances with nervous energy, eager and unstable, until you feed it twigs and resin. Soon, a steady blaze licks the darkness away. Most archaeological evidence suggests that the mastery of fire was humanity's great turning point. For survival in freezing winters, nothing rivaled the hearth. It provided heat for the body, protection from predators, and even a psychological calmness that soothed restless nights. Without it, no amount of furs or caves could keep you alive through bitter months. Fire was more than survival. It was transformation. It reshaped sleep, allowing people to drift off without constant shivers or dread of frostbite. Your senses flood with the smell of burning wood, sharp, sweet, and smoky all at once. It fills the cave with both comfort and hazard. The ceiling begins to darken, faint streaks of soot collecting like shadows that will last for centuries. Archaeologists who excavate caves today still trace these black stains, recognizing them as signatures of long nights exactly like the one you are imagining now. They speak of continuity, countless generations huddled around similar fires, listening to the same crackle, staring at the same shifting glow. A curious little finding is that ancient hearths often contain not only wood ash but crushed bones. Some scientists believe bone was used as supplementary fuel when wood was scarce, producing a hotter and longer-lasting flame. Imagine the sharp smell of burning marrow filling the chamber. Acrid, yes, but essential when survival outweighed delicacy. It's an odd thought, isn't it? A fire built partly on the remains of yesterday's feast, keeping you alive as you drift into sleep. As you extend your hands toward the blaze, heat seeps slowly into your fingers, thawing the ache. The warmth spreads across your chest, and you feel your breathing deepen, slower and steadier. It is remarkable how much the human body responds to firelight. Even today, researchers note that staring at flames lowers heart rate, easing anxiety. You sense that same ancient relaxation creeping in, the way your ancestors must have leaned back, eyes half closed, lulled by the gentle rhythm of flickering light. Of course, fire is not without risk. The cave mouth draws in wind, which occasionally sends sparks flying dangerously close to hides and hair. Children are hushed, reminded not to play too near. Adults keep a cautious eye on the embers, knowing a stray flame could undo all safety. Specialists remain split on how early humans managed these hazards. Some propose that careful hearth design, stone circles, hollowed pits, kept flames under control. Others think fire was more chaotic, requiring constant vigilance. You might lean toward the second, since you can feel the tension even as you relax. One ear always tuned for the crackle that signals trouble. But the benefits far outweighed the dangers. The fire doesn't just warm your body. It extends your day. Without it, darkness would swallow everything the moment the sun set. With it, hours stretch longer. You can sit, talk, mend tools, tell stories, and yes, prepare for deeper sleep. Fire restructured time itself. It gave you twilight, a liminal space between day and night where the mind could wind down gradually. This transition mattered for rest, just as our modern bedtime routines matter now. The cave becomes a world of color thanks to the flames. Shadows leap and sway, painting animals across the stone walls. At one moment you see a horse galloping, at another a bear crouching. These shapes merge with the texture of the rock. Memory and imagination, blending into dreams even before you close your eyes. Some anthropologists suggest that flickering firelight might have encouraged early art, sparks of inspiration quite literally carved from the dance of shadows. Whether that is true or not, you sense how the flames guide your thoughts into softer, stranger pathways. Exactly the roads that lead toward sleep. The crackle of resin pops, startling but rhythmic. Occasionally, smoke curls low, making eyes water. You wipe at your lashes, and the sting reminds you how fragile comfort is. Yet, even this discomfort carries reassurance. Smoke drives insects away. Ash sprinkled over bedding deters pests. Fire guards in more ways than one. A modern quirk of anthropology notes that sleeping near smoke also reduced parasite loads, keeping families healthier in the long run. So, even as you cough softly into your sleeve, you realize the irritation comes with hidden benefits. Meanwhile, outside, the blizzard rages unseen. Wolves prowl, noses catching scent of roasting meat scraps tossed into the flames, but none dare enter. The line of firelight is like an invisible barrier. You feel secure, even content, knowing that predators who could tear you apart hesitate at the very edge of this circle. Imagine how differently sleep would feel without that barrier. Fitful, anxious, constantly interrupted. Instead, you allow yourself to lie back, sigh, and let fire carry you into rest. The debate continues among researchers about whether firelight truly altered circadian rhythms. Did people sleep in longer, uninterrupted blocks, or did they still wake in the night as many pre-industrial societies did? The evidence is unclear. Some experiments with modern volunteers in firelit settings suggest that people relax into segmented sleep, waking for an hour in the middle of the night before returning to slumber. Others insist fire allowed deeper, continuous rest. You may not know the answer, but lying here now, you can feel how the flame reshapes your sense of time. It bends night into something gentler, less absolute. Your companions settle in around the hearth. Some curl up close, furs wrapped tight, while others take positions against the wall. You notice how everyone faces inward toward the blaze, as though fire itself is a companion. This instinct survives even today. How often do we arrange ourselves around campfires, televisions, or glowing screens? The circle is the same, the pull of light unchanging. Fire has always been the axis of our rest. Your eyes half close as you follow the fire's rhythm. It flares, it calms, it subsides. You match your breathing to its rise and fall, a subconscious synchronization. The cave fills with a golden pulse, a heartbeat of warmth. It is both fragile and eternal, small enough to vanish with a gust, yet old enough to have carried your kind across millennia. In this moment, as flames paint your skin and smoke perfumes your hair, you understand why early people might have considered fire a spirit, alive and watching. To them, it wasn't just heat. It was company, guardian, teacher. Perhaps they whispered thanks before drifting to sleep, offering scraps of food into the blaze as though feeding a guest. Imagine those murmured rituals blending with crackling wood, fading into silence as eyelids drooped. You lie down now, the warmth lingering even as you turn away. Fire continues behind you, steady and loyal. Its glow softens the cave's dampness. Its scent mingles with mineral air. This presence assures you that night is safe enough for dreams. Without it, the cave would be unbearable. With it, you are lulled into calm. The flames hiss softly as resin bubbles, a final lullaby. Your eyes close fully, and your last thought before surrendering to rest is simple gratitude. For fire, for stone, for the chance to sleep through one more winter night. You ease your body down upon the ground, still warm from the fire's glow, and take note of what cushions you. The cave floor is mercilessly hard, uneven in some places, slick in others, but clever hands have softened it with layers of bedding. Hides, straw, dried moss, and branches form a makeshift mattress. You sink into it with relief, realizing that someone thought ahead, gathering what little comfort nature allowed. Without such layers, sleep would be broken by aching bones and constant shivers. It is widely accepted among researchers that bedding materials were a crucial innovation for early humans. Archaeological digs in places like South Africa and France have revealed compacted layers of plant matter, ashes, and animal hides, clear evidence of the deliberate construction of sleeping surfaces. These were not random piles. They were carefully arranged to provide insulation, repel insects, and protect from the damp stone. In essence, your ancestors created the world's first beds, and they did so with surprising ingenuity. Your fingertips trail across the fur beneath you. It is coarse, thick, still carrying the faint musk of the animal it once belonged to. Perhaps it came from a reindeer, its hide valued for warmth, or maybe from a cave bear, hunted with danger and triumph. The scent is wild, earthy, but also reassuring. Wrapped in these hides, you feel closer to the life you depend on, even as you rest. They remind you that sleep and survival are stitched together by the same thread, the creatures outside who sustain your family. Among the stranger traces discovered in caves are remains of bedding sprinkled with ash. Ash, it seems, was not just waste. It served as a natural repellent against lice, fleas, and other pests that could make nights unbearable. Imagine sprinkling fine gray powder over your mattress, not to make it prettier, but to keep small, biting intruders at bay. It is such an unexpected yet practical detail, a reminder that comfort often grew out of necessity. Tonight, as you settle deeper into your bedding, you can almost feel that thin layer of ash beneath, a quiet protector against unseen nuisances. The fire casts its glow across the bedding, highlighting the soft pile of furs and the glint of straw. You notice how the materials form layers, one upon another, a primitive kind of architecture. Some archaeologists maintain that these layered constructions reveal a surprising level of planning. They suggest that families return to the same sleeping spots night after night, rebuilding their nests, maintaining them, even improving them over time. Others argue these beds were temporary, built only for a few nights before moving on. Interpretations differ when it comes to how permanent these arrangements were, but one thing is clear: comfort mattered. Even in the harshest winters, people wanted more than survival. They wanted rest that restored them. You imagine yourself lying on bare stone for comparison. The thought alone makes your back ache. Stone would leach heat mercilessly, chilling muscles, numbing joints. But with furs beneath you, that cold is blocked. Instead, you feel warmth radiating up from your own body, trapped and reflected back by the hides. The straw adds resilience, springing lightly beneath your weight, keeping your body elevated just enough from the damp. Moss adds softness, its faint pine-like fragrance mingling with the smoky air. Together, these layers form a cradle, a cocoon against winter's cruelty. Close your eyes, and you hear the subtle creak of straw shifting as someone beside you moves. It is a gentle sound, oddly soothing, like the rustle of dry grass in summer. The bedding is alive with texture and sound, part of the cave's lullaby. Even as children squirm and adults stretch weary limbs, the nest holds everyone, absorbing movements into its embrace. The bedding is communal, not individual. You do not claim a personal mattress. You share in one great nest, bound together by closeness. An unusual observation from modern experiments is that such bedding materials also affected air quality. When straw and herbs burned or decayed slightly, they released compounds that could cleanse bacteria from the air. In a confined cave, this might have reduced illness. Think of it. Not only did moss soften your bed, it may have purified the space where you slept. Tonight, with your cheek pressed against fur, you can almost convince yourself the faint, sharp tang in the air is medicine itself. You roll slightly to your side, pressing your body against the warmth of another. Sleeping in groups was not optional. It was survival. Shared bedding meant shared heat, each body contributing to a pool of warmth that made the difference between life and death. The hides draped across multiple figures, cocooning them all, turning a handful of humans into one large, breathing organism. Each exhale softened the air. Each heartbeat contributed to a rhythm. You feel it now, your body no longer isolated, but part of a greater whole. Debates persist among experts about whether such close sleeping fostered deeper intimacy or constant tension. Some argue it encouraged bonds, trust, and even synchronized sleep patterns. Others suggest quarrels, discomfort, and lack of privacy plagued nightly rest. As you listen to the faint sighs and snores around you, you can imagine both sides being true. Perhaps there were nights when warmth outweighed irritation, and nights when elbows dug into ribs and tempers frayed. But in this moment, with cold pressing outside and fire glowing within, you sense closeness as comfort. Your hand brushes against straw again, and you realize how little separated you from the earth. Just a thin layer of plant matter, some hides, and then rock. And yet, that little bit of innovation was monumental. It is easy now to overlook such simple inventions, but bedding was as revolutionary as fire in shaping human rest. It allowed the body to heal better, to fight illness, to rise stronger for the next hunt. This is no luxury. It is survival disguised as comfort. Imagine children curled against their parents, furs pulled over small heads. Their breaths puff in rhythm, soft and even. Mothers hum low, not quite lullabies, but murmurs of reassurance. The bedding absorbs it all, a stage for human tenderness as well as necessity. You realize that sleep here is not only about keeping the body alive. It is about nurturing the spirit, ensuring that even in the depths of ice, moments of peace endure. Some researchers note that this closeness to hides and moss also meant closeness to scents. Every night the smells of animal, plant, and smoke pressed into skin and hair. It may sound unpleasant, but perhaps it became part of identity, the scent of family, of tribe. To those children, the odor of fur was not strange. It was home. Tonight, as you breathe in that musk, you feel strangely comforted, too, as though your senses recognize something ancient, older than memory itself. The cave around you sighs. Drips fall in the distance. Fire pops. Straw rustles. These are the lullabies of your ancestors, woven into the bedding beneath you. You shift, sigh, and let the hides envelop you further. Outside, the blizzard sharpens its teeth, but inside, you rest. The bedding does its work silently, insulating you from cold, pests, and pain. It is humble, yet it holds the weight of innovation. As your eyelids grow heavy, you realize you are not just lying on animal skins and dried plants. You are lying on the first true beds of humanity, the foundation of all comfort that would follow. From these crude nests sprung mattresses, quilts, and pillows centuries later. But none of those modern luxuries matter right now. What matters is the warmth seeping into your bones, the softness beneath your cheek, and the gentle knowledge that you will make it through the night. The fire has settled into a steady glow now, not roaring, not threatening to vanish, but humming along as if it, too, has found a rhythm for sleep. You lie back, half-lidded eyes gazing upward, and there it is, the gentle hush of water dripping from some unseen stalactite in the depths of the cave. Plink, plink. The sound stretches across the chamber, echoing in ways that transform the smallest droplet into something grand. It feels like a metronome, keeping time in the darkness. A patient and eternal lullaby whispered by stone itself. Excavations consistently reveal that prehistoric caves bore signs of water erosion and dripstone formations. Many shelters chosen for winter survival were not just empty cavities, but living spaces shaped by centuries of dripping, flowing water. To the modern ear, that sound is white noise. Soothing, steady, a signal to the brain that it is safe to rest. Imagine how profound it must have been for your ancestors. No electricity, no hum of machines, no street lamps outside the window, only the faint rhythm of water falling into pools. A soundscape carved by nature and carried straight into their dreams. You turn your head slightly, listening harder. The sound is not uniform. Some droplets are quick, striking with a sharper tone. Others slower, rounder, a deeper splash. Each variation becomes a note in the cave's hidden music. Children curled under furs may have fallen asleep faster because of it. Mothers nursing infants may have timed their breathing to those drops. And elders, eyes half shut, might have woven myths about spirits whispering in each plink. An unusual observation from speleologists, the scientists who study caves, is that dripping water can alter its pitch depending on the size of the cavity it falls into. Small puddles produce high tinkling notes, while deeper pools echo lower, resonant tones. In a sense, the cave played its own organ each night, an instrument that required no hands, only time and gravity. You can almost hear it now, shifting from treble to bass, weaving a natural lullaby across the chamber. The scholarly community is divided over how early humans perceived these sounds. Some anthropologists suggest the echoes were unsettling, even frightening, making caves seem haunted. Others argue that people embraced the noise, interpreting it as protective spirits or ancestral voices keeping watch. You, lying here with your cheek against fur and eyes half closed, feel it as comfort. Each drip marks the passage of time, not threatening, but reassuring. It says, "The cave is alive, but it means you no harm." Your nose catches another layer of scent now. Damp air, stirred by droplets striking stone, carries the faintest mineral tang, sharp like iron, yet refreshing. The smell mixes with smoke, hides, and moss to create a cocktail of earthbound aromas. Oddly enough, it is not suffocating. Instead, it is grounding, tethering you to the present moment. You think of modern sound machines that mimic rain or waterfalls, sold to help restless people sleep. Your ancestors had the original version right here, free and endless. Some researchers believe this acoustic environment contributed to deeper sleep cycles. The steady rhythm may have lulled bodies into slower heart rates and longer breaths, much like a lullaby does for infants. The theory has its detractors, of course. Others claim the irregularity of drips could just as easily wake people. Still, when you let yourself imagine lying here night after night, the pattern becomes hypnotic. Your mind begins to sync with it, your thoughts spacing out like the drops themselves. There is a quirky little detail uncovered at certain sites. Dripstone formations near bedding areas often bore small indentations where people may have collected water in skins or gourds. It seems that not only did they listen to the water, they lived by it. A drip might lull you to sleep while also filling tomorrow's supply of drinking water. Dual purpose, practical and poetic. Tonight, as you listen, you imagine a gourd catching those plinks, a steady resource gifted by the cave's own heartbeat. The drip echoes further into the chamber, mixing with the crackle of embers. Together they create layers of sound. Fire's warmth in one ear, water's patience in the other. You realize how balanced it feels. Flame and drip, heat and cool, light and dark. Each sense is attended to, each need mirrored. The cave provides not just walls but a symphony. Sleep doesn't creep in through silence. It flows in through harmony. You shift on your bedding, noticing how every movement carries into the quiet. A rustle of straw, a sigh from someone nearby, all swallowed into the greater resonance. The dripping water becomes a backdrop, masking small disturbances, smoothing rough edges. It is like the hum of traffic lulling modern sleepers, only purer, untouched by human machines. Perhaps this was one of nature's gifts, sound designed not to distract, but to cradle. Some elders, you imagine, might have told children that the droplets were messages from the spirit world. Each plink a word, each echo a reminder that ancestors lingered. In fact, some scholars argue that caves themselves were viewed as liminal spaces, the thresholds between the living world and the underworld. If so, then these water sounds would have deepened that mystique. Yet, even if interpreted as otherworldly, they weren't always feared. Instead, they could be reminders of protection, of unseen presences, keeping watch while the family slept. Your eyes droop as you follow the rhythm. You don't count the drops. They count you, marking your slow surrender into rest. Every plink is a nudge downward. Every echo a hand guiding you deeper. You let it happen. No resistance, just trust. Before you drift fully, you remember a modern experiment where volunteers slept inside caves for weeks without clocks or sunlight. Many of them reported unusual dreams, vivid and immersive, often tied to the sound of dripping water. One volunteer even claimed they felt the cave was breathing with them. Whether that was real or imagined, you can sympathize. Right now, the cave feels alive. It drips a pulse in your ears, synchronizing with your chest. Outside, the storm howls, but you barely notice. Wolves, snow, cold, they are muffled into nothingness. Inside, only fire and water remain. ancient opposites blending into one gentle song. You curl closer into your bedding, body loose, mind softened, and accept the lullaby. You may not know if this is superstition or science, comfort or coincidence, but tonight the dripping water belongs to you. It will carry you into dreams as faithfully as it has carried countless generations before. Smoke curls upward in lazy spirals, finding its way to the roof of the cave, where soot marks spread like dark wings. You watch the fire's breath stretch higher, thinning as it climbs, and then pooling in a heavy haze near the ceiling. It clings there, stubborn, only escaping through cracks and fissures invisible in the shadows. Your lungs catch slightly with each inhale, but you've already learned to live with it. This is the price of warmth and safety. Air that scratches at the throat, eyes that water, yet bodies that survive. Most archaeologists agree that soot deposits are among the clearest signs of long-term cave habitation. When excavators tilt their lights toward ceilings, the blackened crust tells its own story. Years upon years of hearths burning in the same spots. Families, seasons, generations. Layer after layer of smoke, sealed into stone like an archive. To the untrained eye, it looks like nothing more than dirt. But to experts, it's a diary written in charcoal. Proof that people found this air breathable enough to endure, even when it wasn't exactly pleasant. You cough lightly, but then chuckle at the thought. Even discomforts can feel comforting when they are familiar. The sting of smoke in your eyes is shared by everyone around you. Grandparents, children, hunters returned from the chase. It is communal irritation, softened by laughter and habit. A modern oddity. Researchers who replicated cave living in controlled settings reported that some volunteers claimed to miss the smoke after leaving. They described it as part of the cave's personality, a smell that became inseparable from memory. Tonight, you can understand that strange affection. Archaeologists continue to debate how ancient people managed ventilation. Some propose they built small fires near cave mouths, letting drafts carry smoke outward. Others insist larger hearths were placed deeper inside, smoke pooling until winds eventually dragged it out. Neither explanation fully satisfies. You sit in the haze and realize both might be true solutions, shifting with cave design, weather, or simple necessity. What matters isn't perfection, but survival. Breathing a little smoke was better than freezing to death outside. Still, the body adapted in clever ways. You notice how those around you stay low, close to the floor, where air is clearer. Infants rest in hollows lined with hides, where smoke has thinned. Adults crouch, never standing fully upright unless necessary. It becomes instinct, a posture born of survival. You, too, are lying lower, drawing each breath carefully, savoring the difference between fresh air near the ground and the heavier layer above. One odd but delightful detail unearthed in some caves. Stalactites coated with soot, darkened permanently by smoke that brushed them nightly. Imagine the cave itself slowly transformed by each exhale of fire. What once was pale limestone became painted black, a collaboration between humans and stone. Even thousands of years later, those formations still carry the memory of smoke. You gaze upward and picture that transformation happening here. Even as you lie beneath it, your skin prickles with the warmth fire provides. Yet smoke tempers it, reminding you not to grow complacent. You think about balance. Too much fire, and the cave suffocates. Too little, and the cold steals your rest. The line between comfort and danger is razor thin. Families must have learned through trial and error, adjusting, experimenting, teaching each generation how to tend flames just enough. Specialists remain split on whether fire tenders were chosen by role. Perhaps certain adults always kept watch, or if everyone took turns. Either way, the presence of smoke was constant, woven into every night of winter. You rub your eyes, watering from the haze, and feel oddly drowsy. Some scientists suggest that carbon particles or lower oxygen might have influenced sleep, pushing people into deeper states more quickly. The idea isn't proven, but as you blink heavily, it feels plausible. Smoke, for all its irritation, may have been a strange ally of slumber. Your ancestors dozing with watery eyes might have slid into dreams faster than they ever would have under clear skies. The sound of crackling would continues, each pop a reminder that smoke is always moving. It snakes upward, reshaping shadows, curling into invisible paths. You imagine the cave roof mottled with scars of flame, layers of soot mingled with dripping minerals. Over centuries, smoke became part of the geology, fossilized evidence of nights like this. Without words or symbols, people inscribed their presence into stone simply by surviving. An unusual observation by modern cave explorers is how the smell of old soot lingers even in caves abandoned for millennia. Step into one and you may still detect faint char, a whisper of fires long gone. It is a sensory time machine, pulling you back across eras. Tonight, as smoke weaves through your hair, you know that someone thousands of winters ago lay in this same haze, eyes watering, lungs adjusting, yet heart slowing into rest. The children stir, some coughing softly, but no panic follows. Parents soothe with gentle pats, murmurs blending into the crackle. The group has accepted smoke as part of life, not an intruder. You realize this acceptance is a kind of wisdom. Resisting what cannot be changed only wastes energy. Instead, they folded discomfort into routine, even into comfort. Smoke meant warmth. Smoke meant company. Smoke meant you could close your eyes and expect to wake again. Your vision blurs slightly as tears sting, but the firelight beyond those tears glows softer, hazier, like a lantern seen through fog. It is beautiful in a way. Flame and smoke collaborating to paint dreamscapes on the cave walls. Bison and horses flicker, shadows elongated by the shifting haze. This theater of smoke and light must have entranced children, their first stories written in vapor. Maybe that's how myths of spirits in the flames began, or how elders explained the blurred visions of half-sleep. You let your breath fall into rhythm with the fire's sigh. Inhale, cough lightly, exhale, relax. Your body knows what to do, even as lungs negotiate with haze. A warmth spreads through your limbs, making the sting in your eyes feel minor, manageable. Comfort here is not the absence of hardship. It is the art of resting despite it. As you nestle deeper into your bedding, the smoke above thickens, but you pay it little mind. You know it will find its way out eventually, slipping through cracks and mingling with storm winds. For now, you remain inside its embrace. Your eyes close, and you imagine that blackened ceiling stretching across centuries, carrying memories of every flame, every family, every night where survival and sleep intertwined. And with that thought, you let the smoke cradle you into dreams. The fire breathes steadily, its glow softening the rough walls, and the bedding cradles your weight. Yet warmth does not come from flames alone. You notice the closeness of bodies around you. Kin pressed side by side, shoulders brushing, breaths mingling in faint white clouds. The hides stretch across not one figure but many, wrapping everyone together. It is a blanket of fur and flesh alike, a shared cocoon spun out of necessity. Archaeological evidence strongly suggests that communal sleeping was the norm in prehistoric caves. Bones, hearths, and bedding layers are often found grouped tightly, as if entire families slept in circles. This pattern implies more than convenience. It reflects survival strategy. When bodies share heat, energy loss slows. Each person becomes a furnace for the next. In frigid winters, this was no small advantage. It meant the difference between waking to hunt again or never waking at all. You feel the warmth immediately, not just as temperature but as comfort. A hand brushes against yours, not intentional, just gravity pulling limbs together. You don't flinch. Instead, you let the contact remind you that you are not alone. The cold outside can bite. Inside, you are part of a greater warmth, a human hearth. Among the more curious discoveries in anthropology is the suggestion that synchronized sleep rhythms may have emerged from such arrangements. When one person stirred, others adjusted, settling again into collective stillness. Modern studies of people who camp without artificial light show that their sleep cycles often align naturally. Imagine that here, a dozen individuals drifting into slumber at nearly the same moment, their breathing gradually sinking, the entire group moving as if one organism. The cave itself must have hummed with that rhythm like a great sleeping animal. Researchers remain divided on whether communal sleeping fostered stronger social bonds or bred constant friction. One side argues that nightly closeness built trust and empathy, the foundation of cooperative hunting and shared survival. The other suggests it caused tension, snoring, coughing, fidgeting, and the loss of private space. As you shift slightly against your neighbor's shoulder, you can believe both. Perhaps there were nights of annoyance, but in the face of blizzards and predators, the need for unity outweighed any irritation. Your senses expand in this nest of warmth. You hear the layered breaths around you, some slow and heavy, others quick and shallow. Each voice adds texture to the soundscape. A child's sigh in sleep, the exhale thin and high. An elder's chest rumbles with a deeper rhythm. All blend together into an accidental symphony. You match your breathing to it without realizing, falling into step with the group's collective pulse. One unusual observation from modern recreations. People sleeping in close quarters often experience lower stress hormones compared to those isolated. There is a calming effect in hearing others nearby, in feeling subtle touches of warmth. Loneliness evaporates. Even today, some cultures keep the tradition of group sleeping, not only for warmth but for emotional comfort. You sense that comfort acutely, an invisible safety net woven out of proximity. The hides smell faintly of musk and smoke, but also of kin. Your nose catches the unique human scent. Salty, earthy, familiar. It is not perfume, but it is identity. To children, the smell of family meant security. To you, pressed into this communal cocoon, it signals that you belong. The cave may be stone and cold, but the people make it a home. Of course, not all nights were tranquil. Imagine arguments carried into the bedding, siblings squabbling, couples bickering, someone claiming more space than their share. Perhaps laughter followed, or perhaps sulking silence. Academic circles have long discussed whether this closeness amplified conflict or created resilience. Maybe both. You can almost hear echoes of a grumble or a chuckle, fading into eventual snores. Even discord becomes small when exhaustion settles in. You shift again, feeling how hides stretch taut across multiple bodies. It is not like your modern blanket, tailored to one sleeper. Here, coverings belong to everyone. If one tugs, the others adjust. The fabric of rest is literally shared. This requires cooperation even in unconsciousness. That lesson, subtle yet profound, shaped human culture. To rest well, you had to yield a little comfort for the group. Tonight, you give up a corner of hide, and in return, someone else's warmth shields your spine. The fire pops, sending sparks briefly skyward, and heads stir reflexively. No one rises. The danger is minimal and trust carries the group. You think about how these reflexive checks, glances, murmurs reinforce safety. Someone is always close enough to wake if needed. You are never unguarded, not in such intimacy. Predators may roam outside, but inside, human warmth is both armor and reassurance. You close your eyes, letting yourself melt deeper into this pile of humanity. Each movement is absorbed by the whole. Your weight carried by more than just bedding. It is carried by trust. The warmth that seeps into your bones is not just physical. It is social, emotional, ancestral. You realize why stories of kinship survive across millennia. In the harshest winters, family was not just important. It was the only true shield against death. One odd but telling detail emerges in modern anthropological surveys. People who share sleep environments often recall more dreams than those who sleep alone. Some suggest it's because small disturbances wake them during lighter stages of sleep. If that were true for your ancestors, then communal living didn't just protect them physically. It enriched their dream lives. Perhaps dreams became shared stories, retold by firelight the next day, weaving collective mythologies. You smile faintly, realizing even dreams were communal property here. The storm outside rages on, unseen, unheard. Its power has no sway over you tonight. Instead, you are wrapped in warmth, carried by breaths, lulled by presence. You let the sensation wash through you. The brush of another's elbow, the rhythm of synchronized lungs, the muffled cough in the distance. These are not annoyances. They are proof that you are not alone, that you belong to a circle of life enduring the ice. Your body loosens, muscles unclenching, heart slowing. You surrender not just to sleep, but to the group's collective slumber. Your eyelids droop, heavy as warmth and sound blur into one steady current. Outside, wolves pace. Inside, you dream. The warmth of bodies fades into the hush of awareness. Your eyes half-closed drift toward the entrance of the cave. Beyond the glow of firelight lies only blackness, pierced occasionally by the silver shimmer of snow swirling under the moon. The world outside is alive with movement, though you cannot see it clearly. You sense it. The shifting of paws across ice, the low snarl of hunger carried on the wind. Wolves, maybe a lynx, perhaps even a great bear, restless in winter's depth. It is widely accepted among archaeologists that caves were chosen as shelters, not only for their insulation, but also for their defensive position. A narrow mouth of stone could act like a fortress, with just one point of entry to guard. When predators prowled in the dark, the cave became a shield. Yet this sense of safety was always tinged with caution. A family might huddle in warmth, but ears remained tuned to the outside world. Each howl in the distance was both a warning and a reassurance. Wolves are near, yes, but they are not inside. You lie still, listening. The wind carries sounds unevenly, bending them until they seem closer or farther than they truly are. A howl arcs across the night, beginning low, then rising to a high, lonely pitch. A shiver runs through your spine. Even though the wolves cannot reach you, somewhere a child stirs at the sound, pulling tighter beneath a hide. The cave walls amplify the outside noises, as though reminding you danger lingers just beyond your walls. Among the more curious notes from ethnographers is that many hunter-gatherer groups into modern times created bedtime stories about predators. These tales were both warnings and comforts, designed to teach children caution, but also to soothe them. You imagine an elder whispering, "Now stay close. The wolf will not cross the fire." It is a ritualized lullaby, fear softened into safety by story. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether early humans ever shared their caves with dangerous animals. Some evidence suggests bears may have denayed in certain shelters before or after people, leading to potential clashes. Other scholars argue that humans carefully avoided caves with such signs. Still, bear skulls found deliberately arranged in niches hint at a relationship more complex than avoidance. Perhaps reverence, perhaps fear, perhaps both. As you stare at the cave mouth, you cannot decide whether you'd welcome or dread those glowing amber eyes appearing there. A sudden gust pushes snow deeper into the opening, scattering flakes that glisten against firelight. The cold shock tightens your muscles, but no beast follows. You breathe easier, though the awareness of what lurks beyond remains. You imagine wolves circling, their paws pressing the snow flat, their noses twitching for scent of meat or smoke. They wait, patient, clever, hoping for weakness. But the barrier of stone and flame stands strong. One unusual observation from zoologists is that wolves often avoided firelight even when desperate. Their caution, inherited through generations, made them hesitate at the glowing boundary. For your ancestors, this meant a powerful advantage. Fire didn't just warm. It drew a line predators rarely dared cross. Tonight, as flames flicker near the entrance, you see how their glow becomes an invisible wall, an unspoken command. Stay away. Still, the night stretches long. You wonder what it must have felt like to sleep lightly, ears always tuned for change, even with warmth and kin. Vigilance never fully lifted. Perhaps that is why people took turns tending the hearth, because the true fear wasn't freezing. It was waking to a shadow stepping inside. Specialists remain split on whether night watches were formalized roles or simply instinctive insomnia among some members of the group. You can almost picture one person now, eyes half open, watching the cave mouth while others drift deeper into dreams. The fire cracks briefly, flaring bright, and the shadows it casts seem to leap like intruders across the stone walls. You blink and realize it is only illusion. Yet illusions themselves had power here. How many times did a half-dreaming figure believe they saw a predator in the flicker, only to sigh in relief when it vanished? Perhaps those moments seeded myths of spirits pacing at the threshold, guardians or tricksters, keeping sleepers alert. You draw your hide closer, ears still pricked for the faintest sound beyond the storm's howl. You think you hear crunching paws. Maybe it is only branches snapping under ice. Maybe not. That uncertainty was constant in cave life each night. A wager with nature. You rest anyway. Because rest is not optional. It is an act of faith, trusting that stone and fire will hold. An odd but poignant discovery at some European sites is the presence of claw marks etched into walls. Some are shallow scratches from humans shaping tools, but others are deeper, older marks of cave bears or big cats long before people settled here. Imagine lying in the dark, eyes drawn to those scars, wondering what beast once prowled this same chamber. They are reminders that safety is relative, that caves are borrowed homes in a world of competitors. And yet, despite the danger, you feel gratitude. Outside, predators own the night. Inside, you sleep. You surrender to drowsiness, knowing that stone wraps you, that fire warns intruders, that can breathe beside you. The world beyond the entrance may be filled with hungry eyes, but tonight those eyes cannot touch you. The wolves will circle, the snow will fall, the wind will gnash its icy teeth. But here, in your hollow of stone, you are wrapped in warmth, in trust, in the fragile but stubborn gift of rest. You allow yourself to close your eyes, knowing danger will wait until morning, and by then you will be ready. The fire softens, glowing like a tired heart, and the cave is steeped in shadows that stretch and sway across the stone. You lie back, lids heavy, and begin to notice how those flickering shapes become stories all their own. The bison etched on the wall seems to stir, head lowering as if grazing. A jagged crack in the rock morphs into a hunter's spear. Even the curves of the ceiling mimic the swell of mountains outside. It is not stillness, you see, but a moving theater, an endless play of light and stone. Excavations at Paleolithic sites show evidence of deliberate use of fire near painted surfaces, suggesting that early artists may have understood how flicker transformed their work. It is widely accepted among researchers that shadows gave the art motion, breathing life into static figures. Children lying on bedding would have seen not just ochre lines but herds running, predators stalking, spirits leaping. Sleep came not in silence but through immersion in this visual dreamscape. You blink slowly, mesmerized. The shadows lengthen, shorten, ripple. Your mind begins to play tricks, turning the randomness of light into coherent patterns. A horse gallops. A bird spreads its wings. Perhaps this was humanity's first cinema. Stories performed by flame long before words etched them. It is hypnotic, this unintentional show. You understand how imagination and sleep blurred together in these spaces. A curious little finding from cave excavations. Soot-stained bones with sharpened ends, possibly used as primitive lamps. Researchers believe these bones were filled with fat and lit, casting longer, steadier glows against walls that extended the shadow play, creating slower, more deliberate dances of light. Imagine lying here, eyes drifting shut, watching a lamp-fed shadow stretch across the ceiling like a migrating bird. Even dreams might begin with those illusions, carried forward into the night. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether these shapes inspired myths or merely entertained restless minds. Some scholars suggest the shadow shows birthed ritual spirits of animals returning through art, guiding hunters in dreams. Others argue it was simpler, a distraction that soothed children and calmed nerves before rest. Neither explanation is certain. Yet, as you watch shapes stretch and flicker, you realize it doesn't matter. Whether divine or mundane, the result is the same. Peace, fascination, the gentle surrender to drowsiness. You let your eyes wander along the jagged stone. The cracks and bulges create endless possibilities. Faces, beasts, landscapes. A child whispers softly, pointing to a shadow that looks like a bear. An elder chuckles, weaving a tale about a great spirit watching from above. The story doesn't last long before the rhythm of breathing takes over, but the impression lingers. The cave itself has spoken. its voice a chorus of shadows. An unusual observation from experimental archaeology. Modern people placed in firelit caves often report the same sensation. Shadows shifting into recognizable shapes even when they know it's illusion. Our brains crave patterns, finding meaning in randomness. To your ancestors, without scientific explanation, those patterns may have felt like genuine visions. Sleep must have come tinged with awe, as if the world itself leaned down to whisper before you closed your eyes. The shadows ripple across your own skin, painting you in tiger stripes of light and dark. You watch your hand turn into a claw, your outlines stretch into something monstrous. Children likely played with such shapes, their fingers creating birds, wolves, or spirits on the walls. In those playful acts, comfort grew. Fear of the dark melted into laughter, then into slumber. You can almost hear giggles echoing through the chamber, soon swallowed by yawns. Researchers remain divided on whether such nightly shadow shows were intentional or incidental. Did people build fires precisely to animate art, or was it a happy accident of survival? Specialists have yet to settle this debate, but you feel the truth lies somewhere in between. Fire was necessity, art was expression, and together they made nights magical. No one needed to plan it. Shadows danced regardless, and people embraced the wonder. The fire crackles again, flaring briefly, and the shadows leap wildly, chaotic, dizzying. You catch your breath, startled, then laugh softly at your own reaction. How many times did your ancestors do the same? Startled, awake, heart racing, only to realize it was nothing but light and stone. Perhaps these moments even trained the mind, blending vigilance with imagination, teaching humans to balance fear with curiosity. The cave grows warmer as hides and bodies trap heat. Yet the shadows remain restless, shifting with every twitch of flame. You begin to let them blur, no longer seeking meaning, simply watching movement. The effect is hypnotic, like staring at ocean waves or drifting clouds. Your thoughts grow slow, your body heavy. The shadow play is no longer entertainment, but a pathway, easing you gently into the threshold of dreams. One odd but compelling idea from certain scholars, that early humans may have practiced a form of guided dreaming through such rituals. By focusing on shapes before sleep, they carried those images into their subconscious where they mingled with memory and desire. Dreams of bison, horses, and hunts may have begun as shadows on the wall. You find yourself nodding, believing it easily as you let the last image linger behind your eyes before shutting them fully. The storm outside rumbles faintly, but here inside, you are cocooned in light and illusion. Fire has given you warmth, but shadows have given you stories, bridges into another world. You sigh, smile faintly, and allow the cave's moving pictures to fade as dreams take over. The fire softens into glowing coals, its frenzy spent, and the shadows calm with it. Around you, the circle of kin settles deeper into stillness. Yet you notice something new beside the bedding. Within arm's reach lie the tools of survival. Flint blades glint faintly. A spear leans against the wall, and a hammerstone rests heavy where anyone can grab it. Even in slumber, the instinct to prepare never leaves. To drift unarmed in a world of predators would be unthinkable. Most archaeological sites with traces of prehistoric living show not only hearths and bedding, but also clusters of tools scattered around sleeping areas. It is generally accepted by researchers that people kept weapons close at night, not neatly stored away, but ready to grasp in a heartbeat. The cave was a home, yes, but it was also a fortress. Sleep could not mean total vulnerability. Stone edges and wooden shafts were guardians as much as fire and walls. You imagine the sensation lying down with a flint knife under your palm, its edge sharp enough to slice hide or fend off a wolf. The cold stone presses into your skin, uncomfortable but comforting all the same. Like modern people locking doors or setting alarms, your ancestors relied on these tools as reassurance. Each weapon whispered silently, "Rest. I am here if danger comes." Among the more unusual findings at certain European sites are caches of tools tucked into niches near bedding areas. They weren't just scattered randomly. They were arranged as if deliberately kept close but out of the way of sleep. One peculiar discovery even showed spear points arranged in a fan shape around a hearth, almost like a circle of silent sentinels. Was this mere convenience or a ritual gesture? Scholars continue to debate. You can almost picture someone placing each spear deliberately before lying down, a bedtime routine as habitual as brushing teeth today. You roll slightly in your bedding, feeling the weight of a hypothetical blade at your side. The thought steadies you. Even if predators dared the fire's edge, even if another band of humans intruded, you would not be empty-handed. The flint is there. The spear is near. The tools themselves become part of your body, extensions of instinct, even while your mind drifts. Of course, not every tool was meant for violence. Some were for comfort. Scrapers for cleaning hides, bone for stitching, hammerstones for cracking marrow. Kept close, they ensured the next day's work began swiftly. Imagine waking before dawn, hunger gnawing, and reaching without thought for a scraper to finish preparing meat. Tools at the bedside meant efficiency, a rhythm of life where work and rest intertwined seamlessly. An odd but delightful observation from modern experimental archaeologists. When they attempt to live as Paleolithic people did, many report feeling strangely secure when sleeping with a stone tool nearby. Even though they know predators won't attack them in controlled environments, the sensation of holding something sharp eases their rest. Perhaps the comfort is primal, buried deep in human memory. Tonight, you feel that same ancient reassurance, your hand curled as if gripping a blade even in sleep. Researchers remain divided on whether these tools were considered ordinary objects or imbued with symbolic power. Some argue they were mere necessities scattered casually. Others suggest they were more than that, extensions of identity, talismans against fear. The truth likely lies in between. A knife was both tool and charm, both weapon and reassurance. Sleep in this light was never just physical. It was spiritual as well, an act bolstered by the presence of stone guardians. You let your gaze wander to the spear by the wall. Its shadow stretches long, doubling its size in the firelight. The shaft seems alive, a sentinel standing watch. How many generations stared at such silhouettes, trusting them as much as they trusted the fire itself? A spear was not only wood and flint. It was the embodiment of survival, the answer to hunger, the barrier against predators, the guardian of night. Its presence beside your bedding is as calming as the warmth of the fire. One peculiar detail from digs in France and Spain. Some flint blades found near sleeping areas were deliberately blunted, their cutting edges worn smooth. Were these tools retired, kept as relics of hunts past, or perhaps they were safe versions left near children, teaching them the habit of sleeping with stone without the risk of cuts? Interpretations differ, but the idea is charming, that even in prehistory, children may have had practiced tools, echoes of adult habits guiding them gently into tradition. The cave sighs with night sounds, the crackle of coals, the drip of water, the shifting breaths of sleepers. Yet layered beneath it is the quiet confidence of tools nearby. Your ancestors slept not in helplessness, but with stone and bone within reach. It did not erase danger, but it dulled fear enough for rest to come. You imagine waking suddenly at a noise, the snap of a branch, the growl of a beast. In that moment, your hand would already know where to reach, your body rising half from instinct, half from practice. That readiness was part of sleep itself, woven into the posture of rest. To sleep deeply meant to sleep armed, to let the mind wander while the body stayed coiled like a spring. There is a scholarly debate about whether such vigilance led to fragmented, lighter sleep among early humans. Some argue that constant readiness kept slumber shallow, reducing restorative cycles. Others counter that shared warmth, predator barriers, and tools together provided enough security for true deep sleep. Perhaps the answer is not universal but situational. Some nights heavy with exhaustion after hunts, others lighter, restless, ears tuned for danger. Tonight you sense yourself slipping into the deeper kind, reassured by fire, kin, and the silent company of stone. Your hand curls again, this time loosely, as if embracing the idea of a tool more than the tool itself. You exhale, letting tension seep out of your shoulders. The presence of blades and spears becomes background. no longer sharp reminders of danger, but part of the environment. Just as the bedding cradles your body, the tools cradle your mind, giving permission to drift. Outside, predators still roam. Inside, shadows still shift. But here, in this circle of warmth, every detail has been prepared. Fire tended, hides layered, kin gathered, tools waiting. The stage is set for slumber and you yield to it fully. The coals dim further. Their glow steady, but soft. Your eyelids drop, your breath slows, and your last thought before dreams arrive is this: safety is not the absence of threat. It is the readiness to meet it, even in sleep. The hours of night stretch on longer than you are used to. Winter does this. The sun fades early, and dawn hesitates, leaving humans to swim through an ocean of darkness. Here in the cave, you feel it intensely. The fire's glow has dimmed to a bed of coals, barely enough to paint the walls, and the hush deepens. Your body notices the rhythm of the season as surely as your mind does. The nights are vast, demanding more sleep than summer ever would. It is widely understood among historians of prehistory that the cycle of rest followed the cycle of light. Without clocks or electric lamps, people moved with the seasons. Winter nights brought long hours of slumber, punctuated perhaps by waking intervals. Summer, by contrast, shortened rest, pushing people outdoors for longer hunts and harvests. This seasonal rhythm shaped not only sleep but mood, energy, and survival strategies. You stretch under the hides, aware of the weight pressing more heavily than usual. The body craves stillness in winter, a slow burn of energy to last through lean times. Even today, modern sleep research finds that people often feel drowsier during darker months, an echo of those ancient rhythms. Your ancestors accepted it naturally. They did not fight the season. They let their bodies sink into deeper, longer slumbers, mirroring the earth itself at rest. An unusual observation by scholars studying circadian biology. Some indigenous groups in polar regions today still follow a form of seasonal dormancy, spending extraordinary amounts of time in sleep or quiet rest during the depths of winter. It isn't literal hibernation like a bear, but it is closer to it than most modern lives allow. Imagine prehistoric families adopting a similar pace. Days shortened to small bursts of activity, nights elongated into restorative stillness. You, curled inside the cocoon of the cave, can feel the same pull. Archaeologists continue to discuss whether prehistoric humans segmented their sleep during these long nights. Some evidence drawn from later historical sources suggests people drifted into first sleep soon after dusk, woke for an hour or two in the middle of night, then returned for a second sleep before dawn. Others argue winter exhaustion encouraged long, uninterrupted slumber, especially when fire and bedding offered security. The debate lingers unresolved, but both possibilities seem plausible as you lie here. Perhaps tonight will bring a single deep rest. Perhaps you will stir later, sit by the embers, then sink down again. Either way, the night grants you hours enough. The cave's air feels heavier now, cool and damp, but you are shielded. Hides and bodies conserve heat. Fire radiates a faint pulse, and your limbs sink deeper into softness. The rhythm of dripping water continues, a steady counterpoint to your heartbeat. Outside, the storm has quieted, though the silence is deceptive. Predators move silently, and snow muffles sound. Still, the cave muffles time itself, and you are aware only of slow, deepening rest. One curious little finding at certain sites: clusters of sleeping areas often appeared in semicircles facing the hearth. This arrangement may have helped distribute warmth evenly and allowed everyone to watch the fire if they awoke. But it also resembles ritual design, almost like petals around a center. Whether practical or symbolic, the effect must have been profound. To lie down in such formation, surrounded by kin, staring at a shared flame, was to embody unity. You feel it now, lying in the imagined semicircle, fire at your center like a sun within the night. You wonder what dreams came in such long winters. Did hunters chase mammoths across snow fields in their sleep? Did mothers dream of green summers and ripe berries? Did children imagine animals painted on walls stepping down into life? Dreams must have been vivid, stretched by hours of slumber, shaped by shadows and sounds. Anthropologists have proposed that myths may have grown directly from these long dreamscapes. The boundary between night vision and waking tale was thin, and both wove into culture seamlessly. The scholarly community is not unified on whether long prehistoric nights produced lethargy or creativity. Some researchers suggest extended darkness led to torpor, sluggishness, and the imagination soared, inspired by the faint dance of fire and shadow. You shift slightly, stretching out legs that ache from a long day of crouching labor. The bedding rustles beneath you, a mix of straw and animal hides, shifting under your weight. Around you, other bodies move as well. Someone coughs softly. Another lets out a sigh. A child murmurs in a dreamlike state. The communal nest breathes, adjusting itself like a single, massive creature. Its warmth is constant and comforting, but the sounds within it are ever-changing. This is proof that even in the deepest night, life continues to stir. An odd but revealing detail from modern studies in dark retreats, where volunteers live without artificial light, shows that many people naturally lengthen their sleep to 12 or more hours when granted unlimited darkness. They also experience more vivid dreams. It seems our bodies still carry ancient instructions. When nights are long, we must rest deeply. You feel that very instruction deep in your bones now, a pull older than the earliest civilization, guiding you to let go fully. The fire pops faintly, drawing a brief, startled glance, then quiets down again. This glow appears smaller, but it is enough. Even the coals provide a faint circle of safety, a precious light against the vast darkness outside. You are confident that when one sleeper wakes, they will add another branch, reviving the flame. But even if no one stirs for hours, the embers will hold fast, glowing like quiet, hidden stars within the cave. That knowledge eases your mind further. You don't need to stay vigilant every single moment. The night will be tended, whether by the fire, by your kin, or simply by the passage of time. You sigh, settling deeper into your hide, your eyes fluttering shut. The long night wraps around you, demanding no haste, no alarm. In this cave, time feels different. Winter teaches patience. It teaches surrender. You let your body learn this lesson again, just as countless generations did before you. To slow down, to stretch out, to rest longer than seems possible. Sleep is not an escape. It is survival. It is a necessary rhythm, aligned with the earth itself. Your final thought before drifting deeper is simple. The night is long, but so are you. You can meet it with warmth, with trust, and with dreams that outlast any storm. The coals still breathe faintly, a reddish, pulsing light that glows just enough to remind you of the fire's presence. Yet another light joins the scene. Through a narrow crack in the stone ceiling, silver filters down, soft and ghostly moonlight. It drips into the chamber as though poured from a celestial cup, catching on damp walls, gleaming faintly on spear points, and brushing the hides with a pale shimmer. You open your eyes wider, and for a brief moment, you forget the cold, the smoke, and the potential predators lurking outside. The cave has been transformed into a lantern lit by the moon. It is a well-documented truth that prehistoric people lived in harmony with lunar cycles long before any written calendars existed. The moon's phases guided hunting, gathering, rituals, and, most crucially, sleep. The silver globe, as it waxed and waned, offered rhythm to lives lived without clocks. Tonight, you observe firsthand how moonlight seeps through the crack, marking the passage of time in a silent, beautiful language. Sleep is no longer exclusively the fire's domain. It is also guided by the heavens above. You let the glow wash over your face. It is cool, a distinct contrast to the warmth of the flames, but it is not unwelcome. It softens shadows instead of sharpening them, painting the walls in delicate tones. The fire's orange dance is tempered by this pale, calming partner. The cave is no longer merely stone. It is a piece of the sky borrowed and contained within the rock. You can imagine children waking to see this light and asking questions their parents could not fully explain. What is that silver light? Why does it change shape? Questions that still linger even now. A curious small detail from archaeological sites involves bones carved with notches that some researchers interpret as lunar calendars. These markings may have tracked the phases, perhaps to predict animal migrations or to time seasonal rituals. Imagine a parent marking a piece of bone while lying awake in the long winter, counting the nights by the moonbeam that entered their shelter. Sleep, then, was not merely a matter of drifting off. It was interwoven with observation, the night sky entering the mind as much as the cave air did. Scholars remain divided on whether moonlight disturbed or enhanced prehistoric slumber. Some argue that bright moons kept families awake longer, sparking stories and the creation of art under the glow. Others insist that moonlight aligned rest with natural cycles, nudging bodies into steadier rhythms. As you gaze at the pale beam painting the floor, you find yourself leaning toward both conclusions. It is both a stimulant and a lullaby, a reminder of mystery and a gentle cue to rest. The silver glow highlights the outlines of your kin sleeping beside you. Their faces soften, the harsh lines of exhaustion erased by the moonlight's gentle caress. A child's cheek gleams, rounded in innocence. An elder's wrinkles blur into smooth shadows. Time itself seems gentled by this celestial brush. You realize moonlight passes no judgment. It simply reveals the beauty in everything it touches. No wonder myths later cast the moon as a goddess, a mother, or a keeper of the night. Even without names for deities, people must have felt a sense of awe in this light. One unusual observation from ethno-historic accounts notes that some later communities believed sleeping directly under moonlight could bring vivid dreams or visions, or even madness if prolonged too long. You wonder if similar beliefs began here in caves where the silver light slipped through cracks. Did mothers tug the hides tighter over their children, warning them not to stare too long? Or did they whisper that the moon's light carried stories, guiding dreamers into the spirit world? Both ideas could hold truth depending on who was whispering the tale. The beam shifts slowly as the moon arcs overhead. You watch it trace a path across the stone, from the ceiling to the wall, from the wall to the floor, until it brushes near your hand. You extend a finger into it, smiling faintly at the cool glow. Fire warms, but moonlight soothes. They are opposites, yet together they cradle you. One guards against cold, the other against fear. You sigh, letting both sensations wash over your skin. Archaeologists often point out that many cave paintings cluster in areas where cracks or openings admit natural light. Was this a mere coincidence or a deliberate choice? Some argue that ancient artists used moonlight to illuminate the walls, giving sacred paintings a silver, dramatic stage. Others suggest that these spots were simply chosen because people noticed the beauty of the light there. Either way, you now understand the allure. Tonight, even without ochre or charcoal, the walls feel alive under the moon's touch. The scholarly debate extends further. Did the moon govern human sleep cycles even more strongly than the sun in winter? With the days so short, the nights stretched vast, and the moon effectively became the clock. When it rose bright, people might wake and move. When it hid, people slept deeper. The definitive truth is uncertain, but as you lie here, lulled by its glow, you feel the moon's command. Your body bends to it without any resistance. The silence of the cave is deeper now, broken only by water dripping and the occasional sigh of your kin. Yet the moonlight changes the silence itself, making it feel sacred rather than empty. You think of it as a gift, proof that the outside world still exists, that the stars and skies remain even when walls surround you. Perhaps your ancestors saw the moon as a visitor, peeking in to check on their safety, to bless their rest. A peculiar tidbit emerges from folklore collected in later ages. People often believe dreams under a full moon were more vivid, sometimes even prophetic. You can easily imagine that tradition beginning right here, with a sleeper rolling over in the beam and waking with visions too strange to ignore. Tomorrow, perhaps, they would tell others that the moon spoke through their dreams. Stories would grow. Myths would take root, all seeded by the simple play of silver light across the stone. Your eyes droop again, though you try to keep them open for a moment longer, unwilling to let the beauty slip away entirely. The cave is utterly hushed, silver and amber light blending, warmth and coolness perfectly balancing. You feel as though you are cradled not just by stone, fire, and kin, but by the sky itself. The moon watches, steady and timeless, and you surrender to it willingly. Sleep comes not in total darkness, but in soft silver. You drift into dreams under the gaze of a celestial companion, safe within the stone, guided by the rhythms of night that have shaped humanity from its beginning. The silver thread of moonlight thins as clouds drift across the sky, leaving the cave darker once more. In the hush that follows, another sound rises to fill the space. A long, low, resonant call that carries clearly through the night. An owl. Its voice pierces the stillness, echoing between the stone walls, then fades into silence again. You lie very still, your ears tuned to its rhythm, half startled, half soothed. The cry is eerie, yes, but also strangely comforting, like a vital reminder that life stirs beyond the cave without threatening to intrude. Most archaeological evidence suggests that prehistoric people lived in landscapes teeming with nocturnal sounds. Wolves howling, owls calling, foxes yipping. Without modern insulation or glass, these noises entered directly into their sleep, shaping rest in ways we can barely imagine today. For some, the calls must have been unnerving. For others, they were lullabies, steady signals of a world still functioning as expected. To your ancestors, silence itself may have been more alarming, for silence often meant the absence of life, perhaps indicating danger. You listen again. The owl calls a second time, deeper now and seemingly closer. The sound bounces around the chamber, its timbre altered by the rock. In this natural acoustic theater, one bird's call becomes many, as though the cave itself has joined the chorus. Some anthropologists believe early people connected these echoes with the supernatural, interpreting nocturnal cries as messages from unseen realms. The cave amplified those beliefs, turning simple calls into the perceived voices of spirits. An unusual note comes from folklore. Across many cultures, owls later became symbols of wisdom, death, or prophecy. It's not hard to imagine why. Their eyes glowed in the firelight. Their calls echoed unnaturally, and their presence was strongest when humans were at their most vulnerable, at night. Perhaps those associations began here, in caves where children stirred under firs at each haunting hoot. Elders may have explained it away with stories, turning fear into meaning. The academic community remains split on whether nocturnal sounds disturbed or supported rest. Some argue that frequent calls fragmented sleep, keeping people in lighter stages. Others suggest these noises blended into a natural soundscape, masking sudden disruptions and helping the brain feel secure. Tonight, lying here with the owl cries drifting through the stone, you lean toward the second view. The calls repeat, steady and predictable. They are not interruptions. They are reminders that you are not alone in the night. Your eyes drift halfway shut as you follow the rhythm. The owl calls, then silence swells, then water drips, then the fire crackles. The sounds layer gently, weaving into something larger than any one of them. You realize that prehistoric nights were never truly silent. They were symphonies composed of the elements, animal voices, the weather, flame, water, and breath. Sleep came not despite the noise, but through it, your body recognizing it as the natural heartbeat of the world. A peculiar detail observed in certain caves is the discovery of bones from small birds, possibly owls, found near hearths. Whether they were hunted for food, for feathers, or for symbolic meaning is uncertain. Perhaps feathers lined the bedding. Perhaps bones rattled in ritual. Or perhaps the presence of such birds in myth began with their haunting voices outside, creeping into dreams until people sought to embody them in waking life. You imagine an elder keeping an owl feather as a charm beside their bedding, trusting its voice to ward off danger. Another call rings out, longer this time, intensely resonant. A child whimpers faintly, shifting under the hides. A parent's hand soothes, murmuring low, and the child drifts back to sleep. It is a simple act, but it shows how sound shaped communal bonds. Families comforted one another against the noises of the night, weaving reassurance into their shared rest. Even fear became communal, softened by touch and voice. You wonder how dreams absorbed these cries, Did sleepers imagine themselves flying with the owls, gliding through forests under the moonlight? Or did nightmares form where glowing eyes watched from branches, unblinking and inescapable? Both are plausible. Dreams are porous, and the night's soundtrack bleeds easily into them. Perhaps that is why myths grew so rich, because the line between waking sound and dream imagery was so thin. Specialists who study sleep in traditional societies note that natural noises often cue micro-awakenings without full disruption. You can picture it now. One person stirs at the call, opens their eyes briefly, glances at the glowing coals, then closes them again, immediately reassured. These tiny moments stitch together into a long night's rest, lighter, but no less restorative. The owl becomes part of the fabric of slumber, not a tear in it. The fire sighs again, releasing a puff of sparks. The owl answers as though in conversation. You smile faintly at the idea. Flame and bird talking across the night. Two different guardians with very different tongues. The cave receives both voices and folds them into its stone body. You are just one listener, drifting at the edge of sleep, carried along by their duet. A curious small finding in acoustic studies shows that some caves amplify certain frequencies, making owl calls louder or more resonant than they are elsewhere. It may explain why people felt them to be so significant. To a child growing up in such a cave, the owl might seem larger than life. Its call is omnipresent, impossible to ignore. Tonight, as the sound swells in your ears, you feel the truth of it. This bird's voice is not small. It is the night's anthem. Your eyelids sink lower, each call blending more seamlessly with your own breathing. The owl cries again, but softer now, or perhaps more distant. You cannot tell whether it has flown farther away or whether you are already halfway to dreams. The cave holds you, cradled between stone and sound, between fear and comfort. Outside, predators pace, snow drifts, and branches creak. But within, the voices of night are not enemies. They are companions. You surrender to them, letting their steady rhythm carry you across the threshold. In this cave, in this winter, even the owl's haunting song has become a lullaby. Your belly feels pleasantly heavy now, stretched and full after the evening's meal. The faint taste of fat still lingers on your tongue, smoky and rich from the fire. You close your eyes, but the memory of the feast still hovers. Strips of roasted meat shared hand to hand, marrow cracked from bones, bitter roots chewed slowly, and berries stored from the autumn, now wrinkled but still wonderfully sweet. Food does more than just fill you. It profoundly changes the way sleep settles in your body. Excavations of Paleolithic sites often reveal heaps of animal bones, many charred on the edges, telling clear stories of what families ate before curling into their hides. It is generally accepted that diets heavy in protein and fat helped sustain people through freezing winters. The body burned fuel slowly, releasing heat long into the night. A belly warmed with reindeer meat or mammoth fat meant that rest came faster and steadier. Tonight, you feel it yourself. The warm tide of food spreading outward, gently coaxing your muscles into a state of slackness. You roll slightly on your bedding, hearing the straw creak beneath, and sense how the food's weight anchors you. Sleep isn't only about fire, hides, or kin. It's also fundamentally about what you've eaten. An empty stomach would restlessly wake you with hunger pangs. A satisfied one drapes you in a welcome heaviness. Modern research echoes this ancient truth. High-protein, high-fat meals often induce a state of drowsiness. As the body diverts a large amount of energy into the process of digestion, it seems science and instinct walk the exact same path. A curious small discovery from the analysis of prehistoric dental ware shows traces of starch grains and plant fibers, proving that meals were not all meat. People dug for roots, gathered nuts, dried fruits, and even stored tubers for lean months. Imagine chewing on a tough root before bed, its earthy bitterness coating your mouth. This was not a luxury item, but a crucial reminder that variety existed even in scarcity. Each bite shaped the night's rest differently. Meat was sedating, roots were steadying, and berries offered a lightening of the mood. Anthropologists continue to debate whether heavy meals late in the evening improved or disrupted sleep. One view suggests that digestion created necessary warmth, perfect for slumber. Another argues that it stirred the body, making dreams restless or waking more frequent. Perhaps both are true depending on what was eaten, how much, and how weary the body already was. Tonight, though, your own personal experience leans powerfully toward the first view. Full, warm, and utterly exhausted, you feel sleep pulling you stronger than ever before. Your mind drifts back to the scene of the meal. Firelight flickering over hands tearing at the meat. Grease shining on lips. Bones cracked with sharp stones to release the rich marrow. The air was thick with the unforgettable smell of fat dripping into the flame. Children chewed on berries saved in woven baskets, the red stains bright against their chins. Even laughter echoed softly. Yes, even in the harshest winters, meals could bring genuine joy. That joy is carried into your rest, softening the body's edges. Sleep arrives not just from the warmth, but from the simple, shared memory of eating, of bellies filled together. An odd observation noted by archaeologists is the finding of traces of pine nuts and acorns in hearth ash at some sites. These small foods, easily overlooked, might have been roasted before sleep, releasing delicious, nutty aromas. Imagine lying here, your nose catching that faint, comforting scent even as your eyes flutter shut. Food was not only sustenance. It was part of the very atmosphere, woven into the lullaby of smell and taste. You sigh, feeling the heaviness deepen. Your limbs resist movement. Your body is utterly surrendering to gravity. This is the work of your diet as much as your bedding. A belly full of fat-rich meat signals your brain to rest, to slow down, and to conserve energy. Hunger drives wakefulness. Fullness permits dreams. You realize this is the hidden rhythm of the winter nights. Eat, warm, sleep, and repeat. The cave was not simply a shelter. It was a dining hall, a hearth, and a bed, all in one vital space. The scholarly community is not in full agreement on how the storage of food influenced ancient sleep patterns. Some experts propose that groups who managed to store dried meats and roots slept easier, less troubled by hunger pangs. Others argue that scarcity forced fragmented nights, with people waking often to snack sparingly on small reserves. The truth is likely varied across different groups. Tonight, in your imagination, abundance reigns. The evening meal was hearty, the leftovers safely tucked away from nocturnal predators, allowing you to sink into uninterrupted slumber. You recall the taste of the berries, a slight tartness, tangy against the richness of the meat. They brighten your mouth even now, a final flourish before sleep takes hold. Perhaps children clung to such flavors in their dreams, imagining summers of plenty as they curled in their winter hides. Food was not merely fuel. It was also memory. It was a promise. To drift into dreams with a taste of sweetness must have softened even the harshest night. Another curious tidbit is revealed through coprolite analysis. Yes, ancient preserved waste shows evidence of medicinal plants consumed alongside meals. Some of these may have acted as mild sedatives, easing coughs or calming upset stomachs. Imagine chewing on bitter leaves before bed, grimacing, but knowing they would help you breathe easier later. Medicine disguised as supper, leading straight into calmer sleep. Even without knowing the chemistry, instinct guided people toward plants that aided rest. The fire crackles faintly. Your belly is warm, and your body feels wonderfully heavy. You allow yourself to recall the rhythm of eating, the sound of bones breaking, and the satisfying murmur of your kin. These echoes now fade into slower breaths. The meal is transformed into deep warmth inside you. Your body thanks the feast by surrendering. Muscles are melting into the straw and fur. Outside, predators still sniff at scraps. But inside, fullness guards you. Hunger has no claws. Tonight, there are no teeth gnawing in the dark. You are safe in body and mind, carried into dreams not only by warmth and shadows, but by the steady anchor of a satisfied belly. Your last conscious thought is simple and profoundly human. I am fed. I can rest. The cave is warm with breath and fire, but the air is growing heavy. You inhale and notice something new, a resinous sharpness, a faint sweetness threading through the smoke. Someone has tossed a chunk of pine sap into the embers. It hisses, sputters, and releases a fragrance so distinct it cuts through the damp air. The scent clings to your nostrils, simultaneously soothing and invigorating. Archaeological findings from sites in Europe and the Near East reveal charred traces of resin and herbs in hearth ash, suggesting people intentionally burned plant material not only for light, but also for its scent and its function. Many researchers accept that pine, juniper, and other evergreens were valued for their cleansing smoke. The aroma wasn't decoration. It eased breathing, masked harsher smells, and perhaps even discouraged troublesome insects. Tonight, you feel the air shift immediately. It's less oppressive, more breathable, as if the cave itself is exhaling in relief. You lean closer to the fire, watching the resin bubble and pop. Its sticky body liquefies, oozing like honey before finally turning black. The smell deepens, remaining sharp yet pleasant. It mingles with the musk of hides, the mineral dampness, and the char of meat, layering the cave's atmosphere into something richer. To you, it feels almost medicinal. Your chest opens slightly. Your cough eases. You wonder if your ancestors noticed the same effect, learning over time that certain plants made the long nights easier. One odd but telling detail from experiments is the fact that burning pine resin releases antimicrobial compounds. While prehistoric people could not have understood the chemistry, they may have recognized the effect. Fewer coughs, fewer infections, and cleaner air. Imagine them carrying bundles of resin, as precious as firewood, specifically reserved for winter nights when illness often stalked the group. Inhaling this now, you understand why. The air feels lighter, and your mind begins to quiet. Interpretations differ when it comes to whether herbs were burned deliberately for ritual or simply tossed in as convenient fuel. Some scholars argue that aromatic plants played a spiritual role, carrying prayers in their smoke. Others insist it was purely pragmatic. Resin was sticky, flammable, and convenient. Perhaps both views are true. Practicality and spirituality often blend seamlessly in human life. Tonight, you suspect the ancestors enjoyed the dual benefit: cleaner lungs and calmer spirits. The smell triggers memories you don't personally own, but can easily imagine. Long forests of evergreens, needles crunching underfoot, sap sticky on the fingers. Perhaps someone gathered the resin earlier in autumn, prying it from the bark, saving it for moments exactly like this. A small effort made during daylight now ripples into night's comfort. You feel grateful, though you don't know whom or what to thank. The fire hisses louder as another piece is thrown in. Smoke thickens briefly, then spreads evenly through the chamber. Children cough at first, but then settle, their breathing now quieter. An elder murmurs approval. The bedding shifts as bodies resettle. You realize this ritual, adding the resin, might have been as much a nightly act as feeding the flames. In time, it would have become habit, an expectation, perhaps even a tradition. A curious little discovery at some sites is the presence of sprigs of herbs like yarrow and chamomile pressed into bedding layers. Whether for softness, pest control, or scent, their presence hints at a desire for more than mere bare survival. People actively sought comfort. Imagine lying on straw fragrant with crushed leaves, the smell lingering as you drift off. It is such a small detail, yet profoundly human. Even in caves, people wanted to breathe beauty. You stretch under the hides, inhaling deeply. The resin's aroma mingles with your fatigue, pulling you closer to slumber. Your mind softens. You recall modern traditions: incense in temples, herbs in pillows, oils in lamps. These are not inventions of civilization. They are continuations of something much older. Tonight you smell the origin, raw and primal, yet as calming as any scented candle in a modern bedroom. The scholarly community is divided on whether these practices were widespread or localized. Some argue that herbal smoke was a universal tool across cultures. Others believe it was limited, shaped by local vegetation and knowledge. The truth remains blurred, yet the effect is clear. People discovered that sleep improves when the air smells cleaner, sweeter, and gentler. You feel that truth seep into your bones as you breathe more easily. You imagine the cave now layered in distinct scents: the musk of hides, the tang of damp stone, the the char of meat, and now the bright sharpness of pine. It is a perfume of survival, earthy and grounding. Your eyelids flutter as the fragrance cradles you, a lullaby made of molecules. Sleep feels closer, not forced, but invited, as if the air itself is coaxing you to rest. One unusual observation. In some cave chambers, resinous deposits are found far from hearths, smeared on walls, or mixed into paints. Perhaps resin wasn't only burned, but used as a binder for pigments, or even as a ritual incense during painting. If true, then every sense, sight, smell, touch, was engaged during nightly rituals. You lie here imagining artists coating the walls under the same scent you now breathe. Their minds were sharpened by the resin smoke as their children drifted to sleep nearby. The firelight flickers as the resin flares bright. A final crackle before softening again. The cave fills with a fragrant haze, gentler now, no longer harsh. Your lungs expand easily, and your heartbeat slows. The resin has worked its spell. Whether through chemistry or suggestion, sleep approaches like a steady tide, unstoppable. You curl deeper into your hide, letting the scent linger. Outside, snow piles higher. Inside, the air is warmer, sweeter, and safer. You smile faintly, knowing your ancestors found this comfort long before science could explain it. They discovered that to sleep well, one must not only fight the cold but also care for the breath. Tonight you share in that ancient wisdom. And so, lulled by pine and smoke, you surrender to dreams, with both lungs and spirit at ease. The fire glows steadily, resin still crackling faintly, and you turn your head toward a quieter corner of the cave. There, bundled tightly in hides and moss, are the children. Small bodies are curled against the rock wall, their cheeks ruddy from the warmth, their breaths puffing faintly in the cool air. You watch them with a softness that comes unbidden, the way adults everywhere feel when gazing at sleeping children. Their presence makes the cave more than stone and fire. It makes it home. Archaeological excavations often uncover miniature footprints near hearths and bedding, clear proof that children shared these spaces intimately. It is widely accepted that even in prehistoric nights, little ones slept close to their parents, wrapped in communal furs for both warmth and essential protection. To imagine them placed apart, left alone, feels unthinkable. The dangers of cold and predators absolutely demanded this closeness. You see it now. Their small hands tucked into their mother's sides, their bodies nested within layers of hides. One curious little finding from South African sites shows bedding layers interwoven with softer grasses, possibly chosen specifically for children. You picture parents gathering such materials deliberately, giving their children the best, softest place to rest. Even in scarcity, care was abundant. Comfort for the youngest was crucial for the survival of the entire group. Debates persist among scholars about whether children's presence in caves shaped the rhythm of adult rest. Some argue that constant waking to feed infants or soothe cries fragmented slumber. Others propose the opposite, that the sound of children breathing reassured parents, easing them into sleep. As you listen to the faint sighs and murmurs from the corner, you lean toward reassurance. The small sounds are not disruptions. They are proof of continuity, of life being successfully carried forward. You imagine one child stirring, eyes half opening, whispering for water or warmth. A parent shifts without hesitation, adjusting the hide, murmuring low. The child drifts back almost instantly, comforted more by touch than by words. These nightly rituals, small and repetitive, must have forged bonds as strong as any successful hunt or shared feast. Night after night, love expressed itself in gestures invisible to archaeologists, but etched deeply in human memory. An unusual note: in certain burial sites, children were found interred with miniature tools or ornaments, suggesting they were seen as full members of the community from birth. If such care was given in death, how much more must it have been given in life, particularly during fragile winter nights? You look at the little forms sleeping now, and you know that every adult in the cave watches over them, even unconsciously, as part of the group's unspoken pact. You roll slightly, the bedding rustling, and realize how much children must have influenced the stories told by the fire. Their questions, their fears, their laughter, all woven into the fabric of the night. Perhaps parents told tales to settle them, turning predators into mythical creatures, turning shadows into playful spirits. These bedtime stories were as vital as food, easing small minds into rest so the entire group could rest as well. The echoes of those tales may be the ancestors of the lullabies and fairy tales we know today. Researchers continue to explore whether play spaces in caves, small alcoves with scattered bones or tools, served as daytime corners for children. If so, then the transition at night when play gave way to sleep must have been profound. Imagine a child falling asleep under the same wall they had earlier used to play shadow games, laughter turning to snores, imagination to dream. Even in prehistory, childhood had its cycles, familiar and comforting. One odd but telling discovery. Beads and shells sometimes found near child remains suggest that adornment, perhaps even toys, accompanied them. Did children clutch these trinkets while sleeping? Did parents tuck charms into their bedding to guard against nightmares? The thought feels tender, almost too modern to be true, yet entirely possible. Even in caves, the instinct to comfort children with objects of beauty likely existed. You watch as one child stretches in slumber, a small fist opening, then curling again. The movement is fragile and delicate, and yet it carries the weight of survival. Each child's rest meant the continuation of the group. Every adult knew this instinctively. The hush of the cave is not only to protect sleepers, but to protect the future itself. The scholarly community still debates whether high infant mortality shaped parental attachment into something more distant or more intense. Some argue that loss made bonds tentative. Others believe it only deepened parental devotion since each child represented precious continuity. In the glow of this cave, with furs wrapped tightly around little forms, you sense the latter intensity. The tenderness here feels ancient, raw, but undeniable. These children are not just individuals. They are the tribe's very heartbeat. You breathe deeply, inhaling the mingled scents of resin, hides, and smoke, and realize how much of this atmosphere is shaped by children. Their presence alters the soundscape, the pace, the very feel of the night. A cave of adults might rest in heavier silence. A cave with children hums with faint whimpers, soft breaths, the occasional sleepy murmur. It is less still but more alive. You smile faintly, drifting closer to your own dreams, imagining that you too are tucked against a parent's side, guarded and cherished. Perhaps you even carry a charm in your small hand, a bead or feather, warm from the fire. The cave is vast, the winter fierce, the predators near, but in this cocoon, safety feels absolute. And so, as the children breathe steadily, their dreams mingling with the fire's glow, the entire group yields to the comfort of continuity. The youngest rest, and because of that, the oldest can rest too. The night stretches on, and with it, the gentle promise of tomorrow. The hush of the children fades into another presence above your head. As you let your gaze wander up toward the walls and ceiling, faint lines emerge in the firelight. They are not cracks or shadows this time. They are deliberate strokes of ochre, smears of charcoal, patterns pressed by hands long ago. Painted animals peer down at you. Bison, broad-shouldered and proud. Horses mid-gallop. Deer with tall antlers branching like trees. They are frozen, yet profoundly alive, their eyes catching sparks of fire as though blinking. Archaeological discoveries at sites like Lascaux and Chauvet reveal that painted caves often doubled as living and sleeping spaces. Most experts accept that these images were not mere decorations. They carried significance, perhaps spiritual, perhaps instructional, perhaps both. To sleep beneath them was to be watched by more than family. It was to lie under the gaze of spirits, of creatures larger than life, serving as guardians or guides for the night. You shift slightly, neck craned back, and imagine how such paintings must have shaped rest. A child staring upward might see not just pigment, but herds of animals marching across the stone. An adult, eyes closing, might dream of the hunt more vividly because of these constant images. The cave became not only shelter but also a gallery of imagination. Dreams were seeded even before sleep truly began. An unusual detail from certain painted caves. Some images were placed specifically above or near sleeping areas. Archaeologists wonder if this was coincidence or deliberate design. Did families intentionally choose spots under the bison rather than blank walls, hoping for protection in sleep? Did paintings of predators serve as warnings, reminders even in dreams to stay alert? There is no definitive answer, but the placement itself raises questions that linger in your mind as you lie here beneath the stone herd. Debates among scholars remain lively about whether these paintings were viewed only during rituals or seen daily by those who lived inside. Some argue the art was sacred, reserved for ceremonies deep in the caves, far from sleeping chambers. Others note that soot and ash near painted walls suggest fires burned regularly below them, meaning people lived with these images constantly. You, staring up at the ochre forms, believe the latter. They are too present, too vivid, too close to ignore. The fire flickers, and shadows ripple across the painted bodies. Suddenly, the bison appear to move, the horse's legs to kick, the deer's antlers to sway. The illusion is startling but mesmerizing. Perhaps this was the artist's intention, to animate the animals, to blur the lines between stone and life. To you, lying beneath, it feels like the beginning of a dream while still awake. A curious little discovery. Some paintings contain multiple legs or overlapping outlines, as if artists were deliberately suggesting movement. Under a flickering fire, those forms would have seemed to run. Imagine the impact on sleepers, half drowsy, watching herds migrate across the ceiling. Dreams must have followed naturally, full of motion, full of life. You breathe slowly, letting your eyes linger on the ochre strokes. The smell of resin still lingers in the air, mingling with smoke, as if even the atmosphere honors these images. You wonder if families whispered prayers to the animals before sleep, asking the bison for strength, the horses for speed, the deer for vigilance. Sleep itself might have been seen as entering the animal's world, guided by the painted spirits above. The scholarly community is divided on whether cave art was primarily symbolic or practical. Some see it as magic to ensure successful hunts. Others, as memory aids, teaching children about the creatures of the world. But as you lie here, eyelids drooping, you realize the paintings also served another crucial role. They created atmosphere. They made the cave more than just rock. They made it alive, meaningful, and safe. Sleep came easier when the walls were not blank, but filled with a presence. One odd but fascinating finding. Handprints, red and black silhouettes pressed onto the walls, sometimes tiny, belonging to children. Imagine lying beneath your own mark, a handprint you made earlier in the day. Each night you would sleep under proof of your existence, your place in the world. It is a comfort modern bedrooms rarely match. Tonight you imagine your palm pressed above, glowing faintly in the firelight, keeping watch as you drift off. The animals gaze down, silent, unblinking, yet they seem more alive than many humans you've known. Their stillness hums. Voiceover, with power. You sense it settling within you, a deep reassurance that you are connected to something much larger, a continuous cycle of survival itself. The presence of the art affirms your place, and within that sense of belonging, rest comes easily. You finally close your eyes, though the images remain striking behind your eyelids. Bison stampede, horses gallop, deer leap. They accompany you toward the dream world. These painted guides exist not only on the cave walls but within your memory. You sink into a deeper sleep, supported by the art as much as by your bedding and the fire. Outside, the storm calms. Inside, the ancient spirits of animals seem to breathe alongside you. Your body grows heavy, your mind drifts, allowing the painted herd to carry you across the threshold into dreams. Voiceover. Snow falls much heavier now, building up against the cave mouth until its sheer silence presses inward. The entrance narrows, its edges blurred by the accumulating white. As the drifts grow deeper, the soundscape itself changes. The fierce howling of the wind is muted to a gentle hum, as if the entire cave has been snugly tucked under a thick blanket. The outside world becomes distant, softened by layers of snow, while inside, you feel wrapped in an intensified hush. Archaeological evidence from high-latitude sites shows that deep snow drifts frequently sealed cave entrances during winter, sometimes even intentionally encouraged by people piling branches to collect the flakes. Scholars largely agree this natural insulation worked to the occupants' advantage. Rather than icy drafts sweeping the chamber, the snow acted as a highly effective natural barrier, cocooning families in profound stillness. You are experiencing it now, the sudden calm when the storm's fury can no longer penetrate. You draw in a slow breath. The air is certainly cooler, yet it is noticeably steady, without the disruptive gusts that typically rattle the fire. The flames burn more evenly. Smoke curls upward with far less turbulence. The whole cave feels more settled, as if the very earth has chosen to safeguard its inhabitants. You realize that snow, once feared as an enemy, can also serve as a dedicated guardian. It also keeps out predators, dulling their scent trails and muting their footsteps. A wolf might prowl outside, but its approach is muffled, nearly undetectable. Voiceover. One unusual observation from archaeological digs. Soot lines on cave ceilings are sometimes thinner near entrances, suggesting periods when airflow was drastically reduced. Researchers have proposed that snow-sealed caves could become so airtight that smoke barely escaped. This situation presented both a blessing and a curse. Warmth was perfectly preserved, yet the air was heavy with smoky haze. Imagine the families balancing deep gratitude for the profound quiet with irritation from stinging eyes. Tonight, you experience that difficult balance in your throat. The smoky flavor is sharper but tolerable against the profound gift of calm. The academic community remains divided on whether these snow-sealed caves were actively sought out or simply endured. Some experts argue that early humans welcomed the insulation, adjusting their fires to cope. Others believe they viewed blocked entrances as fundamentally dangerous, fearing suffocation or entrapment. Lying in your bedding, you sense both viewpoints. The relief of the muffled world competes with a subtle unease about being sealed away, as though the cave has completely consumed you. The quiet is absolute. The cries of owls vanish. The howls of wolves fade to mere whispers. Even the rhythmic drip of water sounds softer, buffered by the snow. It is as though you have entered a literal womb, encased in a silence older than any language. Your body responds instinctively. Breathing slows, shoulders relax, eyelids grow heavier. Sleep finds you much more easily in this cocoon of stillness. Voiceover. A curious parallel from modern ethnography. In Arctic communities, snow houses, or igloos, create nearly identical effects. Warmth is preserved, external noise is dramatically reduced, and rest is deepened. While caves and igloos are different structures, the underlying principle is the same. Snow, the enemy of hunters in the open, becomes a true friend when harnessed by walls and roofs. Tonight, you share that ancient experience, tucked into a cradle naturally carved by winter. The fire's light glows against the white drift at the entrance, turning the snow into a vibrant wall of amber. Shadows dance across it, appearing alive yet harmless. Children stir to look, then smile, reassured that nothing can break through the protective layer. Adults shift, pulling their hides tighter, acknowledging that for this night, no fierce wind will disrupt their slumber. The snow functions as both a barrier and a blanket, an integral part of the cave's natural design. You exhale, becoming aware of how sound has changed within your own body. Without external noise, your own heartbeat seems notably louder, each thump echoing faintly in your ears. You realize that early humans may have experienced a similar self-awareness, turning their attention inward when the outside world fell silent. Perhaps they used such nights for deeper dreams or even profound visions. Sleep transforms from mere rest into an exploration of the inner self when all outside distractions disappear. Voiceover. Interpretations vary on whether long, silent nights fostered anxiety or peace. Some researchers claim this silence heightened existing fears, making every small cave sound ominous. Others suggest it calmed minds, facilitating truly restorative sleep. Your own reaction leans strongly toward peace. The snow's embrace feels protective. Even the occasional pop of firewood seems gentler, more rhythmic. You feel gently rocked by the earth itself, as though the cave has transformed into a living cradle. One unusual archaeological finding in certain sealed caves. Ash layers were unusually thick, suggesting that families allowed fires to burn longer when ventilation was poor. Perhaps they feared the extreme cold more than the smoke. Perhaps they trusted the snow to filter air through tiny, unseen pores. Either way, they chose to sleep under a heavier haze, trading perfectly clean air for a greater sense of security. You sense the same compromise now. Your lungs are working harder, but your heart is steadier. Safety, once again, arrives not through purity but through compromise. The snow also muffles footsteps. If any predators are pacing outside, you simply cannot hear them. That state of ignorance provides its own comfort. Sleep comes more easily without constant reminders of what dangers lurk just beyond the entrance. For this one night, at least you are deaf to danger. The world shrinks down to the fire, your family, the stone, and your own breath. Voiceover. The longer you lie in this muffled silence, the heavier your body feels. Every sound grows distant. The crackle of resin, the drip of water, the sigh of hides shifting. They do not vanish entirely, but they soften, layered beneath the silence like small pebbles under deep snow. Your brain drifts, lulled by this profound absence, tricked into believing that the world itself has come to a standstill. It is the perfect condition for dreams. You close your eyes, breathing the smoky, resin-sweet air, and let the muffled night cradle you. Outside, storms rage, predators roam, and snow piles up. Inside, you rest in silence, sealed away, perfectly safe in the womb of winter. The cave is hushed, the snow piled thick against the opening. And yet, even in this profound stillness, a familiar ache begins to creep through your bones. The bedding is sufficiently soft, the fire is stable, but the stone beneath remains relentlessly hard and unyielding. Your hips press into it. Your shoulders begin to complain. Your knees stiffen. Age does not matter. Even the young wake with soreness after many hours on stone. You shift slightly, seeking some relief, but every movement serves as a reminder of the cold ground beneath. Voiceover. Archaeological studies of early skeletons reveal telltale signs of wear. Arthritic joints, compressed spines, and thickened bone growths. It is widely understood that prehistoric life was incredibly hard, not only due to hunting and external dangers, but because rest itself took a heavy toll. Night after night on firm rock, with no true mattress beyond hides and straw, the body bore the lasting marks of endurance. You feel it now, how the ground itself leaves its harsh memory in your muscles. You curl tighter, attempting to find warmth and comfort simultaneously. The hides soften the worst pressure points, but the cold stone pushes back, completely indifferent. Your ancestors adapted. Their bodies toughened, and their tolerance for pain shifted. Yet, chronic pain must have constantly lingered. Imagine an elder groaning softly as they turned, their joints swollen, their backs stiff. Younger kin would listen, perhaps offering additional hides, but nothing could completely eliminate the hardness. Sleep certainly came, but never without its price. A fascinating finding from some burial sites is the presence of smooth shells or flat stones placed directly beneath bodies. Some researchers speculate these were simple pillows or supports for aching heads and necks. Others think they were symbolic offerings. Either way, the underlying impulse is clear, to soften the unyielding earth even just a little. Tonight, as your own neck strains against the floor, you imagine reaching for such a small stone, shaped by a human hand, to cradle you into easier dreams. Voiceover. Scholarly debate continues about how much the cold contributed to these daily aches. Some argue that dampness and freezing temperatures worsened arthritis, making bones stiff long before old age. Others suggest that genetics played a larger role. Both hypotheses may be true. As you breathe the cool, smoky air, you sense how the chill permeates your joints and how your body reacts instinctively, curling inward to protect itself. Pain is not an exception to the routine. It is a fundamental part of the nightly ritual. You listen to the others around you. Some are snoring deeply, fully exhausted into indifference. Others stir, shifting, coughing, or muttering. The communal sleeping area cannot eliminate discomfort, only help to share it. Perhaps the physical closeness helps. Misery spread across many shoulders is easier to bear. You consider how humans have always sought companionship in hardship. Even now, the soft groans of your kin feel less isolating than your own private aches. An unusual observation from modern recreations of Paleolithic bedding. When participants slept on furs and straw, many reported initial soreness, but also surprising resilience. After only a few nights, their bodies adjusted, their muscles adapted, the pain dulled, and rest deepened despite the hard surface. It appears that even discomfort, repeated consistently enough, can transform into familiarity. Voiceover. Tonight, you feel that difficult transition beginning. The dull ache in your hips lessens. Your spine relaxes. The body, while often stubborn, eventually learns how to rest effectively on stone. Still, you wonder about ancient remedies. Did families rub aching joints with warmed animal fat? Did they heat stones by the fire and press them to sore muscles? Such practices are unproven, but they are certainly imaginable. Necessity drives invention, and the human need for comfort has always been relentless. You picture an elder pressing a warm stone to their knees, sighing in relief before sleep finally overtook them. The scholarly community is not unified on whether prehistoric aches shortened lifespans dramatically. Some evidence suggests that many lived long enough to exhibit advanced arthritis, meaning they endured discomfort for decades. Others believe that chronic pain limited activity, potentially leading to earlier deaths. The truth has always likely varied, but one thing feels absolutely certain. As you shift against the hides, pain did not stop life. It simply accompanied it. Like smoke accompanies fire, it was ever present, sometimes irritating, but ultimately survivable. You close your eyes, acknowledging the ache without actively fighting it. The secret is not to banish the pain, but to smoothly integrate it into the rhythm of the night. The body learns to rest even while sore, to dream even while stiff. Perhaps that is the hidden strength of your ancestors. Not that they avoided hardship, but that they slept in its presence, woke with it, carried it, and still endured. Voiceover. One odd but striking detail. Some cave skeletons show healed fractures, meaning people survived serious injuries for years. That survival implies a high level of care. Others must have helped them, carried burdens, and ensured they could rest. You imagine a hunter with a broken leg, lying in this very bedding, tended by family, enduring nights of ache, but surviving purely because others cared enough to keep them safe. In that powerful act of tenderness lies the secret to humanity's endurance. Your eyelids droop once more. The ache does not disappear, but it fades into the background, like the smoke or the drip of water. It is a part of the cave, a part of the body, a part of life. With that acceptance, you allow yourself to sink further into rest, trusting that even in discomfort, sleep will inevitably arrive. The fire sighs. The snow holds. The bodies around you breathe steadily. Pain may linger, but dreams rise regardless. You yield, proving again what your ancestors knew. That rest is not the absence of ache, but the art of surrendering despite it. The chorus of breathing steadies you. But then, a subtle new sound rises above it. A voice, soft and low, almost a whisper. An elder begins to speak. Their tone is neither commanding nor conversational, but gently lulling, like water flowing over stones. The words are simple, perhaps half-formed, yet they immediately capture your attention in the drowsy darkness. It is a story, and in this cave, a story is as vital as the fire itself. Voiceover. Archaeological traces cannot capture words, but ethnographic parallels suggest that oral storytelling is among the most ancient human traditions. Around fires, nestled under hides, families spent hours with tales of animals, ancestors, and spirits. It is generally agreed that these stories were not only entertainment, they were memory, teaching, and comfort. Tonight, You listen as the elder's murmur weaves through the chamber, carrying powerful images that soothe even as they voiceover. Your eyelids finally sink. The tale begins with a magnificent stag, its wide antlers stretching beyond the height of trees, wandering across snow-covered plains. You visualize it clearly, the firelight casting shadows on the walls that seem to match the detailed description. Children stir in their bedding, half roused by the familiar, soothing rhythm of the elder's voice. Adults offer faint smiles, knowing the story as well as their own names. It has been recounted countless times, yet this repetition forms part of its deep appeal. The stag consistently wanders, always achieves triumph, and constantly reminds the listeners of strength during difficult times. One curious detail observed among later hunter-gatherer groups: bedtime stories often reflected the realities of their daily lives, hunting animals, surviving harsh winters, but infused them with magic. They served to teach children how to live while simultaneously giving adults a renewed sense of shared purpose. The line between myth and manual became blurred. You feel that merging now as the elder narrates the stag patiently scraping snow to uncover hidden grasses. It functions as both fantasy and clear instruction, imparting lessons in patience and endurance. Voiceover. Scholars remain divided on whether these ancient tales were primarily practical or spiritual. Some argue they were clever mnemonic devices, practical lessons easily remembered through rhythm and repetition. Others strongly insist they were sacred, serving as a method for summoning animal spirits into dreams. Half drifting, you sense both purposes. The story simultaneously soothes and instructs, comforts the weary, and elevates the spirit. It transforms the act of survival into genuine meaning. The fire occasionally pops, scattering tiny sparks, and the elder's voice drops even lower, becoming almost conspiratorial. The children instinctively lean in, even though they are already mostly asleep. The stag encounters a wolf in the story now, and a brief tension permeates the air, but the wolf ultimately bows, showing deep respect for the stag's superior strength. The children's eyes close completely at that reassuring moment, their minds satisfied. Sleep comes more easily when the narrative ends with reassurance rather than fear. An unusual observation from caves with painted walls. The artwork often aligns with the themes of oral tales still recounted among contemporary indigenous groups. Bison, deer, and horses all play leading roles. Though the exact spoken words are now lost to time, the continuity of the imagery suggests very deep cultural roots. Tonight's story may be one of infinite variations stretching back across the generations, like the stag's winding trail in the snow. Voiceover. The elder continues speaking, their voice thinning, the words spaced farther and farther apart. Even their delivery reflects the rhythm of sleep, slowing until periods of silence fill the gaps. Perhaps this technique is intentional, honed over countless generations. Speak until the listeners drift, then stop. A story, in this context, does not require a final line. Sleep provides the ending. One odd but delightful discovery. Modern researchers in dark retreats sometimes begin talking to themselves aloud before sleep, finding that narrating simple stories effectively calms their busy minds. This suggests that the instinct to tell tales before resting is fundamentally ancient, built into our species. Without it, silence can feel too vast, too empty. Tonight, you are deeply grateful for the voice, for its cadence, and for the words that gently carry you across the threshold of sleep. The academic community still debates whether such tales were communal or individual efforts. Some argue that everyone contributed, with each adult offering fragments until the story grew like a braided rope. Others believe that one elder often held the specific role of storyteller, the revered keeper of words. You imagine both situations occurring at different times, but tonight one voice dominates, steady and soothing, guiding everyone toward dreams. Voiceover. Your body grows heavy, and your mind easily slips into the imagery. The stag, the wolf, the snow. They are no longer external, but internal, actively shaping your emerging dreams. Story becomes dream without a detectable seam. You wonder if the elder intended this, planting seeds in the listeners' minds so that sleep could continue their work. Instruction, myth, and memory are all carried forward through dreams born in firelight. The last words finally trail off. The elder sighs, their own breathing slowing as they join the slumbering group. The cave returns to quiet, but it is not truly silent. The story remains, faintly glowing in the minds of the listeners, blending into the consistent rhythm of breath and the flicker of coals. Sleep now belongs to everyone. You close your eyes fully, the stag's antlers stretching across the ceiling of your dream world. The cave has provided you with warmth, sustenance, breath, and now potent words. Together, these elements cradle you, drawing you deeper. The elder's voice has faded, but its strong echo remains in the cave's stillness. Now, as your body sinks even deeper, your mind wanders into the delicate landscape of dreams. Images arrive without conscious thought. The flickering herds on the walls appear to come to life. Snow fields stretch out endlessly. Predators with glowing eyes circle just beyond your reach. You are asleep, yet not entirely surrendered, hovering in the liminal state between full wakefulness and deep dream, where cave life frequently lingered. Voiceover. Anthropologists studying traditional societies note that dreams were not treated as private matters, but rather as shared resources. It is widely believed that prehistoric people regarded dreams as vital messages or visions to be carefully retold around the fire at dawn. A dream concerning a bison could be an omen, valuable instruction, or powerful reassurance. To sleep was not simply to rest. It was to consult the world beyond. You feel that profound weight now. Each image in your mind seems heavy with meaning, as though the night itself is trying to impart a lesson. The bison charges through your dream, its hooves powerfully pounding snow that glistens under a pale moon. It does not frighten you. Instead, it seems to guide you forward, inviting you to follow. You sense that if you were to share this vision tomorrow, others would nod in recognition, understanding that bison must be tracked soon. The dream instantly becomes a strategy, a whisper of survival disguised as fantasy. A curious little detail from certain caves. Artifacts like bone flutes or shells have been discovered near bedding layers. Some researchers propose they were used in rituals, perhaps to induce specific dream states. Sound and rhythm before sleep might have guided the mind toward visions. Tonight, you hear only the steady chorus of breath, but even that rhythm shapes your dreams, carrying you deeper into a rich landscape of animals and fire. Voiceover. Scholars continue to discuss whether dreams were seen as personal or communal property. Some argue they belonged solely to the dreamer, unique and private. Others suggest they were collective, intended to be told aloud, analyzed, and shared by the group. In many indigenous traditions that still exist today, dreams guide not only the individual but the entire community. You imagine tomorrow morning, hunters leaning in as you recount the bison vision, deciding together what its meaning truly is. Your dream shifts. The owl's cry you heard earlier now filters into the imagery. You are suddenly flying, wings silent, moving swiftly through dark pine forests. You feel the cold air slicing past feathers that are not yours, yet feel undeniably part of you. Such transformations are common in dreams, and for your ancestors, they may not have been dismissed as mere illusions. To dream of becoming an owl or a wolf might have been interpreted as direct contact with those animal spirits. Sleep, then, was a nightly initiation into alternative forms of being. An odd but fascinating observation. In some later traditions, shamans claimed their powers originated from dreams where animals taught them songs, cures, or essential hunting skills. While we cannot know if Paleolithic dreamers held such specific roles, the possibility lingers. Perhaps one sleeper's dream guided the entire group, elevating them as an intermediary between worlds. In that powerful case, sleep was not passive. It was active, sacred, a nightly voyage undertaken for the benefit of everyone. Voiceover. The fire pops loudly, startling you awake for a brief moment. Then you drift again. The dream resumes, now carrying traces of the resin's subtle fragrance. You see smoke coiling into shapes, transforming into hazy human forms that silently gesture. Are they ancestors? Spirits? Your mind cannot decide, but your heart swells with a blend of fear and comfort. Dreams blur all boundaries, allowing the dead to return, the future to arrive early, and the impossible to unfold. The scholarly community remains divided on whether such potent dreams were intentionally induced with herbs, smoke, or were the chance result of exhaustion and the dark environment. Perhaps both. Tonight, your dream feels entirely natural yet intensely heightened by the resin, the smoke, and the recent story. It is not ordinary rest. It is something deeper, a current pulling you toward experiences where waking thought cannot venture. You roll slightly on your bedding, murmuring quietly aloud without realizing it. Others may be doing the same. The cave softly hums with dream talk, fragments of words, soft sighs, half-laughs. Even in sleep, a form of communication continues. Perhaps this also helped shape myth. When someone recited dream fragments while still unconscious, and others remembered them in the morning, the boundary between dreaming and storytelling was incredibly thin and porous. Voiceover. One peculiar observation from research into sleep cycles. REM sleep often arrives in bursts accompanied by very vivid imagery. In dark environments without artificial interruptions, such cycles can stretch longer, leading to elaborate dream worlds. Your ancestors likely spent more time dreaming than modern people do. Imagine the richness of their inner lives, carried each morning into the fire circle. Dream time was not escape. It was another form of living. Your dream grows stranger now. The painted deer on the wall seems to step down. Its antlers catch the firelight, its eyes glowing. It turns to you and speaks, not in words you understand, but in the rhythms of breath and sound. You do not understand completely, yet you feel instructed and irrevocably changed. This is what your ancestors might have called wisdom, even prophecy. Dreams do not require logical clarity to feel profoundly true. You stir, half awake, then drift again, carrying the deer's image with you. The cave is both a protective cradle and a grand theater. Its walls are both solid stone and vivid canvas. Its night is both absolute silence and complex symphony. You are aware of the others sleeping, their dreams likely intermingling with yours in unseen ways. Threads of vision weave into a communal tapestry. Perhaps tomorrow, stories will overlap, proving that dreams were never solitary. Voiceover. You sigh, turning deeper into the hides, surrendering to the powerful images. The cave guards you, the fire warms you, your kin breathe with you, and dreams carry you into realms where animals speak and ancestors walk. Sleep here is not simply unconsciousness. It is an ancient conversation, one you are honored to join. The dream lingers, yet slowly you stir, drifting in that quiet interval where sleep is not complete, but neither is waking. The cave around you is hushed, except for a faint, steady hiss from the coals. Most bodies lie perfectly still, but here and there, someone shifts, half-roused, scratching an itch, turning over, or mumbling. It is the middle of the night, a time when slumber naturally loosens and reshapes itself. Historians of sleep point to an intriguing pattern known as segmented sleep. Without the presence of artificial light, many societies naturally divided the night into two distinct phases, separated by a brief wakeful interval. In this gap, people tended the fire, whispered to one another, or sat quietly in thought. Some scholars believe our prehistoric ancestors lived the exact same way. Tonight, you feel that urge, not to fight the wakefulness, but to accept it as a normal part of the night's rhythm. Voiceover. You roll slightly, the hides rustling beneath you. A neighbor also stirs, eyes half open, then meets your gaze with a sleepy smile before turning back. No words are exchanged, yet the moment powerfully affirms companionship. Even in this pause, you are not alone. The darkness does not isolate. It invites small, quiet connections. One curious finding from later ethnographic records is that people often used these intervals for intimacy, not always physical but deeply emotional. Couples whispered, parents soothed their children, friends shared stray thoughts. Imagine the cave in this hour. A quiet murmur here, a soft laugh there, low voices carried on the smoke, dreams just told, worries just soothed. All before the second, deep stretch of sleep descended. The scholarly community debates whether such midnight waking was universal or varied by climate and culture. Some argue it was common in cold winters when the fire constantly needed tending. Others insist it arose everywhere, fundamentally built into human biology. You cannot decide which view feels truer, but the evidence of your own body tells you this. Waking now feels natural, not disruptive. Voiceover. You sit up a little, gazing intently at the embers. Their glow pulses like quiet stars, painting faint light across the walls. A figure near the fire shifts, carefully adding a small branch, coaxing sparks into a flame. The orange flare grows, shadows quickly leap, then calm again. Such simple maintenance feels profound. To successfully keep the flame alive in this interval is to protect everyone's second sleep. An odd but telling tidbit. Experiments conducted in total darkness show that people often naturally wake after about 4 hours, spend an hour in calm wakefulness, then return to bed. They describe this interval as peaceful, reflective, and sometimes quite creative. Perhaps your ancestors also used this time to think, to dream awake, to plan hunts, or to share deep secrets. Night was not a single block of time, but a carefully woven pattern. Sleep, waking, sleep. You lean back against the cave wall, letting its chill permeate your back, while the warmth still lingers on your front. This contrast sharpens your senses. You hear the faint crackle of wood, the muffled sigh of someone turning, the gentle trickle of water in a distant corner. The silence between the sounds is not empty. It is rich, layered, and alive. Voiceover. Nearby, a child whimpers in a half-dream, and their mother immediately draws them closer, murmuring softly. The sound is tender, almost musical. It reminds you how such intervals must have profoundly shaped communal bonds. Not every moment of parenting happened in daylight. Nights held their own important rituals. Comfort, reassurance, whispered promises that monsters would not cross the fire's line. Those quiet promises were as vital as any spear. The fire settles, its smoke curling lazily. You lie down again, but your mind is not yet ready to plunge back into deep dreams. Thoughts wander. Perhaps prehistoric people, too, allowed their imaginations to freely roam in this hour. Some researchers suggest that such intervals gave birth to deep reflection, even early spirituality. With no distractions, only darkness and the glowing coals, the mind could wander farther than daylight allowed. Religion, myth, and philosophy may well have been seated in these drowsy pauses. A peculiar observation from some caves. Small carvings and etched bones are sometimes discovered near hearths, as if people whittled or scratched designs while others slept. Could these have been midnight projects born in that quiet interval between rests? You imagine an elder carving spirals into bone while the rest of the group dreamed, their hands moving quietly in the darkness, their thoughts drifting like the smoke. Voiceover. You turn over, your body settling deeper, finally ready for the second stretch of rest. Around you, the murmurs fade one by one until only consistent breathing remains. The interval closes. Night gathers its folds again. Your eyelids sink, and you slide once more into the current of slumber, trusting that the rhythm will carry you until the dawn. The cave sighs with you. Stone and flesh are synchronized, segmented though it may be. Sleep here is whole, seamlessly woven by fire, soft whispers and silence. The second stretch of sleep draws you down more heavily than the first. Dreams swell again, stranger this time, more vivid, as though the mind, now warmed and quieted by the brief waking, plunges deeper into its own internal river. But before the dreams can fully claim you, something else claims your ears. The distinct rhythm of snores. They rise like slow waves across the chamber. One begins low and guttural, from the far side of the hearth. Another joins, higher pitched, almost whistling. Soon the cave is filled with overlapping tones, a powerful chorus of nasal song. It is imperfect and uneven, yet oddly comforting. The noise is undeniable proof that everyone sleeps, and that the necessity for constant vigilance can rest for a while. Archaeological evidence leaves no record of ancient soundscapes. Yet, modern studies of group sleeping provide clues. It is generally accepted that prehistoric caves would have been noisy at night. Snores, coughs, shifting hides, muttered dream words. True silence would have been rare. To us, accustomed to private rooms, such noise might feel disruptive. But for your ancestors, it was a familiar part of the lullaby of life. Voiceover. Tonight you realize it too. The snores blend easily into the steady rhythm, becoming a background music for dreams. One curious finding in anthropology. In some small-scale societies, snoring is not seen as a nuisance, but as reassurance. It reliably signals health, proof of steady breathing, and proof of life. Imagine parents listening closely for the snores of their children, sighing with relief when they hear them, or partners resting easier because the rough rasp beside them means the body next to theirs endures. Tonight, the guttural rumble of an elder sounds almost like a drum beat, steady and deeply grounding. Scholars still debate whether prehistoric people sought to reduce these sounds or simply accepted them completely. Some propose that careful positioning or herbal smoke may have been used to ease breathing difficulties. Others insist there was little viable choice. Noise was simply endured, and perhaps even eventually embraced. You suspect the latter. In this cave, with so many bodies pressed closely together, complaints would not last long. Survival demanded tolerance. You shift slightly, hides rustling, and notice how the snores create distinct patterns. One long rumble, then two short wheezes. Another sleeper pauses, breath catching, before releasing a sigh like a soft flute. Together, they create accidental music. The fire occasionally pops, joining the ensemble. Water drips rhythmically in the distance. It is the percussion section for the night's unique orchestra. The cave is alive with sound, yet not chaotic. It feels cohesive, even strangely beautiful. Voiceover. A peculiar tidbit. Researchers have suggested that prolonged exposure to repetitive noise during sleep can subtly influence dream imagery. Perhaps prehistoric people dreamed in rhythm with the snores around them, their subconscious weaving the sound into the story. Imagine dreaming of distant drums, rushing rivers, or strange animal calls, when in fact it was only the varied breathing of kin. Tonight, you feel that very possibility, the rumble outside your ear morphing into a vivid dream of thunder. The scholarly community remains divided on whether such noisy nights fragmented rest or fostered resilience. Some argue constant interruption made deep sleep rare. Others counter that the brain quickly adapts, effectively tuning out familiar sounds while instantly waking at any unfamiliar ones. That essential ability remains in us today. A modern parent sleeps through traffic noise but wakes instantly at a child's sudden cry. You sense that powerful adaptation sharpening here. The snores fade into the background. But if any danger stirred outside, your body would immediately snap alert. You smile faintly in the dark. Even the oddest noises can become a source of comfort when they are shared. A whistling snore becomes a reminder of companionship. A cough reassures you that the elders endure. A muttered word proves that dreams are active. Altogether, they weave a resilient cocoon of sound, holding you steady in the river of night. One odd but striking observation from experimental archaeology. Volunteers living in cave-like camps. Voiceover. Often reported that the group noises lulled them faster than absolute silence. The sound reminded them of belonging, of being actively guarded by others. Tonight, you share that exact sensation. The snores are not unwanted interruptions. They are firm anchors of safety. You turn onto your side, hiding your face in the fur, and allow the orchestra to continue. A deep, resonant rumble here, a nasal whistle there, a crackle of fire interspersed. Even your own breath joins in, becoming a part of the composition whether you intend it or not. The cave hums like a living, massive body. Every noise is like a heartbeat. Dreams return, entirely shaped by the soundscape. You wander through a deep forest where the trees groan like sleeping kin and the rivers gurgle like the snores of giants. The world itself seems to breathe with you. Far from being an annoyance, the ambient sound becomes a constant companion in your dream. It serves as proof that even in the deepest unconsciousness, you are never alone. The fire gently sighs, the snow holds its heavy position, and the chorus of breath continues. You surrender completely now, letting the collective snores and coughs rock you into a deeper slumber. The cave is not a silent sanctuary. It is noisy, fully alive, and intensely communal. And within that shared noise lies the deepest possible comfort. Voiceover. The snores fade into the distant background of your dreams. And when you stir again, it is not sound, but touch that immediately commands your attention. A stray foot presses gently against your calf. A hand drapes across your shoulder. A child rolls even closer in their sleep. The cave is a complex nest of tangled limbs, and in the midst of it, you feel the profound closeness more keenly than ever. Archaeological reconstructions strongly suggest that communal sleeping involved unavoidable, constant contact. There were no beds set apart, no concept of private boundaries. Hides overlapped, bodies pressed tightly together, and warmth was shared instinctively. It is widely accepted that this skin-to-skin closeness was not merely tolerated, but fundamentally necessary. In freezing winters, heat lost through exposed skin could quickly lead to death. Physical contact was the essential currency of survival. You shift slightly, feeling how easily each body molds into the next. Shoulders rest against shoulders. Knees are tucked behind other knees. Breath brushes gently against the nape of your neck. It is intimate, yes, yet not romantic. It is simply the natural, vital state of group living. Even without words, the core message is clear. We endure together. Voiceover. A curious little finding at certain Paleolithic sites is the significant wear on hides and furs, often more noticeable at the edges where people likely tugged and shifted them throughout the night. This suggests that coverings were not strictly individual but communal, passed back and forth, pulled tighter by one person, and perhaps loosened by another. Imagine the nightly choreography. Dozens of micro-adjustments, with each ripple affecting the entire group. To rest in such a setting meant surrendering a part of your individual space to the movements of others. Scholars debate whether such intense intimacy fostered comfort or created tension. Some argue it forged profound bonds, reinforcing deep trust night after night. Others suggest that constant touch and disturbance may have fueled irritability. Perhaps both possibilities are true. Tonight, you sense the perfect balance. An elbow might jab slightly too hard, yet the steady warmth it provides dramatically outweighs the passing annoyance. You exhale and simply accept it, understanding that closeness is never perfect, but it is always vital for survival. The firelight glows faintly, painting faces in a warm amber hue. You watch a small child nestled securely into a parent's chest, their breath perfectly synchronized. Another pair of sleepers lie back to back, their spines aligning like pieces of a puzzle. An elder rests with one arm outstretched, two grandchildren tucked against it like firm roots around a tree trunk. The arrangements are entirely unplanned yet deeply meaningful, with bodies forming constellations of comfort across the cave floor. Voiceover, an unusual note from modern studies of communal sleeping. When people share body heat, their core temperature remains significantly more stable throughout the night, leading to fewer disruptive wake-ups. You feel this truth deep in your bones. The warmth against your skin is steady and utterly reliable. Even when the fire dims, the living furnace of your kin sustains you. You wonder how dreams themselves respond to such closeness. Do minds, like bodies, naturally overlap? Do shared touches subtly shape shared visions? Some anthropologists suggest that group dreaming may have powerfully reinforced social unity, potentially giving entire families similar imagery to discuss at dawn. It is not currently provable. Yet, as you drift, you strongly sense that your dreams are not yours alone. They belong to the protective circle of limbs and warmth that is holding you. One odd but telling tidbit. Studies of heart rhythms show that when people sleep in direct contact, their pulses sometimes align, beating in unison. Imagine that happening here. Dozens of hearts syncing and slowing together in the night. The cave itself becomes a silent drum. Each thump echoes faintly through the heavy stone. You press your hand gently against a companion's chest, almost feeling it. Their rhythm calms yours, and together you settle deeper into rest. Voiceover. The scholarly community remains divided on whether prehistoric people valued privacy in any modern sense. Some argue that closeness was all they ever knew, and solitude was simply unthinkable. Others insist individuals sought small moments apart, at cave mouths, in side chambers, or under separate hides. Tonight, lying in the center of the circle, you lean toward the first view. Separation feels inherently dangerous, alien. Here, closeness is comfort. Privacy seems an unnecessary luxury. You turn, nestling deeper into the comfortable tangle. A hand slips from your shoulder, quickly replaced by another. The warmth shifts slightly but never completely fades. Even in movement, the group remains perfectly whole. You realize this is the very essence of prehistoric sleep. Not individual rest, but collective surrender. Each body lends itself willingly to the others, weaving a safety net through constant physical contact. Dreams return again, now deeply shaped by this touch. You imagine yourself as part of a single, larger animal, limbs joined, hearts aligned, moving as one cohesive unit. The vision is not frightening, but deeply reassuring. To be an individual here is to be incomplete. To be many is to be whole. The fire flickers, the snow presses against the entrance, breath mingles, and limbs intertwine. You sigh and allow yourself to dissolve into the warm nest. Survival lies not in solitude, but in skin against skin, warmth against warmth, dream against dream. And so, held securely by others, you rest again. Voiceover. The tangle of limbs holds steady, and you lie warm within it. But another element of the cave begins to press into your awareness. Water. A slow, unwavering drip echoes from a crack high above, droplets falling into a shallow hollow in the floor. Plink, plink, plink. At first, it is very faint, almost ignorable. But as your ears adjust, the sound grows constant, shaping the predictable rhythm of the night. Archaeologists who study cave systems often note that water left behind mineral deposits, creating stalactites and stalagmites that grew over centuries from exactly such drips. It is widely accepted that prehistoric families heard these sounds every single night, a subtle, constant metronome of the earth itself. For you, lying here, it becomes both soothing and insistent, a constant reminder that time is passing even as you sleep. You notice how the droplets subtly alter the atmosphere. The air is damp, clinging lightly to your skin, carrying the faint metallic tang of minerals. You breathe it in cool, almost sharp. Some researchers suggest that such high humidity may have irritated lungs, especially in smoky caves. Others argue it kept airways moist, easing breathing in dry, cold winters. You feel both of these truths at once. A faint heaviness in your chest, yet also relief against the harshness of the smoke. Voiceover. One curious little discovery at certain sites. Shallow stone basins near bedding areas were found filled not only with water, but with traces of herbs. Scholars speculate these may have been used for rinsing, soothing, or even rituals before sleep. Imagine dipping your hands into cool mineral water, washing away the smoke before curling under the hides. Tonight, you picture an elder leaning over the hollow, allowing the drip to collect, then cupping it to sip before lying down again. The scholarly community is still uncertain whether dripping water was actively embraced as a natural lullaby or silently cursed as a nuisance. Some argue it provided perfect natural white noise, effectively masking sudden, alarming sounds and easing sleep. Others suggest it became intensely irritating, keeping people restless. As you listen, however, the sound folds seamlessly into the cave's ongoing orchestra, joining snores, crackles, and sighs. It feels less like an intrusion, and more like a dependable heartbeat, steady and eternal. The drip also vividly fuels your dreams. In your drowsy state, the simple plink sound transforms into hooves, footsteps, or steady drum beats. Each drop immediately becomes an image, feeding your mind with rhythm. Anthropologists studying dreams in traditional cultures note how environmental sounds often merge seamlessly into visions. Tonight, your subconscious cannot resist the lure. The sound of water leads you into dense forests, into intense hunts, and into endless rivers that flow throughout sleep itself. Voiceover. An odd tidbit from cave studies. Some chambers are known to amplify water's drip, turning it into a loud, resonant tone. Explorers report feeling unsettled or completely mesmerized by the effect, depending on their mood. Imagine your ancestors choosing sleeping spots partly for acoustics, favoring corners where water whispered rather than boomed. Comforting caves was not only about warmth, but also about the perfect soundscape. Tonight, you are grateful for the softer version, gentle as a simple lullaby. You reach a hand out toward the drip, though it is just out of reach. Still, the gesture subtly comforts you, as though connecting you with the powerful element. Water signifies survival, drinking, cleaning, cooking. To hear it all night was strong reassurance that the earth continued to provide. Perhaps that is why some researchers believe dripping water held deep symbolic weight, interpreted as the voices of spirits or ancestors. The falling drops became words of stone, speaking without interruption. The firelight briefly catches the water, making each drop sparkle brilliantly before it falls. For a moment, you imagine the cave ceiling as the night sky, the droplets as stars falling one by one. The vision is calming, almost sacred. You wonder if children staring at the same sight saw magic there, if parents explained it as gifts from above. Sleep, then, would not come into an empty space, but into a world where even water spoke. Voiceover. The scholarly debate extends to whether prehistoric groups attempted to control such drips, diverting them with stones, collecting them deliberately, or simply leaving them as they were. Some basins clearly suggest human arrangement. Others seem purely natural. Either way, the sound endured night after night, generation after generation. To lie in these caves was to lie under dripping time itself. You curl deeper into your bedding, letting the rhythm seamlessly merge with your breath. Inhale, drip. Exhale, drip. This synchronization feels entirely natural, as though your body inherently wants to align with the rhythm of the cave. Perhaps this was how people effectively endured such demanding environments. Not by resisting, but by joining, adapting until stone, water, and flesh move together in unison. Dreams creep closer again, and the drip follows you into them. You find yourself beside a vast river, its current slow but endless, each ripple echoing like the cave's hollow. You step into it, unafraid, and let it carry you, knowing the water's rhythm will always guide you home. Back in the cave, the fire sighs, the breath chorus continues, and the drip keeps perfect time. You surrender completely, letting the cave's powerful elements cradle you together. Flame, smoke, warmth, physical contact, and water are all lullabies, ancient and eternal. The drip of water maintains its rhythm. But another detail of the cave begins to claim your senses now. The very skin of the walls themselves. In the soft glow of the embers, you notice their surfaces. Rough in some places, smooth in others, veined with minerals that glisten faintly. The walls are not lifeless. They carry the indelible marks of time. Scratches of claws, deep stains of soot, and intricate patterns etched by years of dripping water. As you stare, they seem less like physical barriers and more like silent, constant companions. Archaeologists often note that cave walls were effectively canvases of memory. Not only intentional paintings, but also accidental scratches, carvings, and soot streaks preserved the presence of both humans and animals across many generations. It is widely understood that families must have slept beneath these marks nightly, their eyes adjusting to the shapes until they became as familiar as kin. Tonight, you share in that ancient experience. The walls are not blank but vividly alive with stories. Some intentional, some purely accidental. You run your fingers lightly across the stone near your bedding. It is cool, almost damp, and gritty with mineral dust. The texture powerfully grounds you, reminding you that this entire place was shaped long before your arrival. Some scholars propose that people may have chosen sleeping spots according to the feel of the walls, favoring smooth hollows for comfort or symbolic niches for protection. You can easily imagine a parent guiding a child to lean against a polished curve, soothing them with the constant touch of the stable stone. A curious little discovery in some caves. Claw marks are preserved from bears or large cats that lived here long before humans entered. To lie beneath them each night must have been deeply humbling, a stark reminder that this home was once another creature's. Perhaps families turned those powerful scars into instructive stories, necessary warnings, or protective charms. You gaze at the faint scratches on the wall and wonder if they still hold echoes of roars long vanished from the area. Scholars remain divided on whether humans decorated their sleeping spaces deliberately or treated the art and bedding as separate domains. Some argue paintings were confined to ritual chambers deeper inside. Others point to evidence of pigment near hearths, suggesting that art surrounded daily life. You, staring at faint ochre streaks just above your head, lean toward the latter view. How could people possibly resist turning even their sleeping chamber into a vibrant gallery? The firelight flickers, casting moving shadows that instantly animate every crack. A long fissure becomes a snake slithering upward. A round hollow becomes a watchful eye staring back. These visual illusions are no accident. The walls themselves strongly invited interpretation. Imagine a child pointing out these various shapes night after night, their imagination sharpened by the interplay of pigment, natural crack, and dancing flame. The cave was not a passive structure. It collaborated in the storytelling, shaping both dreams and lurking fears. One odd but striking tidbit. In some caves, stalagmites were intentionally broken or carefully arranged as though actively reshaped by human hands. Perhaps they were simple obstacles to comfort, or perhaps they were turned into powerful symbols, guardians at the edges of the sleeping spaces. You can almost feel the urge yourself. If a jagged stone jutted too closely, you would certainly move it or break it, effectively reshaping the chamber into something more deeply human. You stretch out your arm again, your palm pressed flat against the cool rock. The coolness gently seeps into your skin, effectively balancing the warmth of the fire. It is strangely soothing, as if the cave itself is lending you its essential patience. Stone has no urgency. It waits, unhurried, carrying deep memories far older than your kind. To rest against it is to borrow that patience, to let your body slow into its massive ancient rhythm. Scholarly debate continues about whether caves were chosen more for practical features, dry floors, narrow entrances, or symbolic ones, such as resonant acoustics and unique markings. Perhaps the answer is indeed both. Tonight, as you lie beneath claw marks and ochre smears, warmed by the stone's silence, you sense no division between the practical and the sacred. Comfort and meaning were absolutely inseparable here. Voiceover. A peculiar observation from spelunkers. Some caves subtly hum when wind passes through, the walls vibrating like a distant drum. If your ancestors heard such low tones at night, perhaps they treated them as the literal voices of the cave itself. Sleep would then arrive not in silence, but in a choir of whispers, water dripping, stone humming, and fire sighing. Even now, you half believe you hear a hum beneath the drip, a resonance too low to easily name. The walls cradle you as much as the hides. They lean close, forming a comforting embrace of stone. You do not feel trapped, but powerfully sheltered. Their sheer permanence reassures you that even if severe storms rage or dangerous predators stalk, these walls will not falter. They have stood for millennia and will stand long after you are gone. Such immense endurance seeps into your bones, convincing you that rest is completely safe. Dreams creep back, shaped by the wall's visible markings. You see animals etched in the cracks, ancestors traced in the soot, rivers carved in veins of quartz. The cave is not only a bed, it is a dream machine, feeding your mind images it could never invent alone. Sleep becomes collaborative, intricately woven by stone and fire, body and imagination. Voiceover, your eyelids sink lower. The last thing you notice before fully surrendering is the way a fissure curves across the wall, closely resembling a horizon line. It feels like a subtle promise. Beyond this night, beyond this current winter, there is always another dawn. The cave has witnessed them all. It will witness yours too. The walls have successfully quieted you, their permanence sinking deep into your bones. But now, another companion strongly asserts itself. The animals that once prowled outside and sometimes within. Even in sleep, your mind flickers with the knowledge that you are not the cave's sole guest. Bears, wolves, and powerful lions once claimed these very chambers. Their ancient shadows linger, shaping every dream and every vital breath. Archaeological evidence confirms that many caves were first home to great predators. Bear skulls, large lion bones, and claw marks gouged deep into the stone all testify that humans were the latecomers. It is broadly recognized that families bedding here in winter slept not in neutral space, but in highly contested territory. Tonight you feel that underlying tension. The comforting warmth of kin pressed closely, yet always the nagging thought, something else has slept here before me. Voiceover. You imagine lying directly beneath those old claw marks, wondering if the beast might suddenly return. Perhaps stories were invented specifically to soothe that fear. Tales of heroic hunters who defeated the lions or powerful spirits who drove the bears away. Perhaps every single fire lit was both practical and deeply symbolic, a clear declaration to the predators that the cave now belonged solely to humans. You see it clearly, the flames not only warming the hides but also drawing a decisive line of ownership across the chamber. A curious little discovery at Chauvet Cave in France. Alongside human footprints preserved in the clay, the distinct paw prints of cave bears meander across the same ground. This means that at least once, humans and beasts shared the floor, separated only by the passage of time. Imagine sleeping there, knowing your bedding overlies the prints of a predator significantly larger than you. Every snore, every sigh carries a subtle reminder of what might lurk in the deeper shadows. The academic community remains divided on whether humans actively displaced predators or merely occupied caves seasonally when the beasts were absent. Some argue that fire and noise forcefully drove bears into other dens. Others suggest humans patiently waited until hibernation or migration left the chambers empty. Tonight, curled tightly against the fire, you lean toward the latter view. No family would risk bedding where fresh claw marks still dripped blood. Still, fear must have flavored every single night. You picture children huddled close, asking if the lion would. Voiceover. Return, parents responding softly, pointing to the fire as undeniable proof of safety. Yet both sides knew the risk lingered. The cave was never entirely theirs. Sleep came not from absolute certainty, but from a fragile, shared trust. One odd but telling tidbit. In some Upper Paleolithic sites, bear skulls were carefully arranged deliberately, perhaps as trophies or powerful protective charms. Some scholars believe they signified mastery over the beasts. Others think they were tributes, offerings made to keep the predators appeased. Either way, the presence of these skulls near sleeping areas meant that even during rest, the animals remained central to human thought and ritual. The fire gently crackles, and you imagine its glow casting back a lion's reflection. You feel the instinctive tensing of your muscles, the sharpened awareness that persists even in drowsiness. This is the quality your ancestors constantly carried, the ability to half-sleep, with ears acutely tuned to every rustle. Modern studies of group sleeping show a similar phenomenon. Someone always wakes at small, unfamiliar sounds. The group is never entirely defenseless. You realize that predators shaped not only the caves, but the very pattern of human slumber. Voiceover. A peculiar observation from bear dens later reused by humans. Scratches high on the walls show that cubs once clambered there. To sleep beneath those marks might have evoked a strange sense of empathy, knowing the enemy's sea. Your own now curled up. Perhaps this blurred the line between fear and kinship. After all, both species sought the exact same goals: warmth, basic safety, and survival. The cave became a mirror, predator and human chasing identical fundamental needs. Dreams strongly respond to that tension. You drift into visions of sharing the chamber with powerful beasts, lying beside a bear that snores louder than any human, watching wolves curl in a secure circle near the entrance, lions flicking their tails by the fire. The imagery is both terrifying and oddly tender. You sense what your ancestors may have felt, that the boundaries between species blur completely in the deep darkness. Night makes kin of all sleepers. Scholars still argue whether such vivid visions fueled the early myths of animal-human transformation. Perhaps the belief that shamans could assume the form of a bear or lion arose not from successful hunts, but from nights of uneasy sleep in a shared cave. To rest exactly where predators once lay is to silently invite their spirits into your dreams. You feel that possibility now, as though a lion's eyes blink open deep in the back of your mind, guiding you deeper into slumber. Voiceover. The fire wanes, shadows stretch, and the predator presence perceptibly thickens. Yet you do not panic. Instead, you accept it just as your ancestors must have done. Sleep comes not from entirely banishing fear, but from steadily embracing it, folding it into the intricate fabric of the night. The cave is a shared space. Stone, water, human, and beast. Safety lies not in total domination, but in uneasy coexistence. One final reflection drifts across your thoughts. Perhaps the best sleep was not when predators were absent, but when their lingering memory remained. For in that tension, vigilance sharpened, communal bonds tightened, and the essential stories deepened. To dream of the beasts was to consciously remember your place in the vast chain of life. You close your eyes, your heart steady, accepting both the genuine comfort of your kin and the necessary shadow of the lions. Together, they securely cradle you. The memory of the beasts drifts away, leaving you with another distinct awareness. The slow, deliberate return of light. You stir, your eyelids heavy, to see the faintest glow pressing at the snow-sealed entrance. It is not yet full dawn, but something fundamental changes in the darkness. A subtle lifting, a thinning of the shadow. The long night has finally stretched its limit, and now its fabric begins to slightly fray. Voiceover. Archaeologists who study daily cycles note that without artificial lamps, prehistoric people measured time by the firelight and the natural, powerful rhythm of dawn and dusk. It is generally understood that sleepers often stirred well before true sunrise, roused not by alarms, but by the subtle shift in air, the essential change in tone. You feel it now, that delicate cue, as if the cave itself exhales and whispers that morning will soon arrive. You roll slightly, your bones stiff from the night, and the bodies around you begin their own slow wakening. An elder coughs gently. A child mutters in dream speech. Someone stretches with a loud crack of joints. The group does not wake all at once, but in gentle ripples, one body nudging another into awareness. The process is deeply communal even in rising. A curious little finding from cave excavations. Layers of ash suggest that embers were frequently rekindled in the gray hours just before dawn. Fires were coaxed back to life for critical warmth and light. Tonight, or rather this morning, you watch the same thing happen. One adult rises, hair tangled, and nudges the coals with a stick, carefully feeding them with dry twigs until sparks flare. Soon, the orange glow swells again, painting faces with the first warmth of the day. Voiceover. The academic community remains divided on whether mornings in caves were rushed with activity or slow and deliberate. Some argue that hunters rose early, eager to seize the daylight. Others believe winter mornings were languid, conserving crucial energy until the light truly arrived. You sense the truth in the latter view. No one leaps suddenly to their feet. Bodies stretch. Deep yawns echo. Time itself seems patient and unhurried. The snow at the entrance glows faintly golden now. Firelight and dawn collide to transform the white barrier into a luminous wall. Children gaze at it with wonder, whispering softly as though spirits are moving behind it. You smile, realizing that for them, each morning is a small miracle. The night has not trapped them. The world continues. Light consistently returns. One odd but telling tidbit. In some ethnographic records, waking rituals included sharing dreams immediately upon rising. You can picture the same here. Adults murmuring about recent visions of bison or deer, deciding together if the dreams carried significant meaning. Perhaps hunts were planned or postponed based entirely on these morning exchanges. In this cave, sleep and wake are not separate realms, but threads woven tightly together. Voiceover. You rise enough to sit, pulling hides securely around your shoulders. The air is crisp, your breath is visible again. Smoke lingers, curling lazily upward. The dripping water continues its rhythm, steady as ever. Proof that some rhythms never stop. The snores fade into grumbles, the chorus quickly shifting into morning noises. Scholars speculate on whether waking in such communal settings fostered patience or irritation. Some argue it strongly strengthened bonds, with each morning being a reminder of shared endurance. Others suspect tempers occasionally frayed. Elbows were jabbed, snores cursed under the breath. You witness both sides in the cave. Laughter as a child tumbles playfully out of their bedding. A low groan as an elder rubs aching knees. Humanity is never tidy, even in the deepest survival. An unusual observation from later hunter-gatherer groups. Dawn often meant small rituals of grooming, combing hair with fingers, rinsing faces with cold water, carefully stretching limbs. Perhaps your ancestors did the same. You imagine them leaning toward the drip, splashing their faces, rubbing soot from their skin. Even in extreme hardship, there is a fundamental dignity in preparing for the start of the day. Voiceover. The cave brightens gradually, shadows steadily retreating. The paintings above, the bison, horses, deer, reappear in clearer light, their forms steady after a night of flickering. You gaze at them and realize they too are part of the process of waking. They are reminders not only of dreams but of the tasks waiting outside. The animals return, not in fantasy, but in reality. Their herds are still roaming beyond the snow. One peculiar tidbit. In some preserved hearths, morning fires contain bits of bone and fat, suggesting small meals were shared at first light. You imagine now the group reaching for scraps left from the night before, chewing slowly, fueling their bodies for another challenging day. The flavors of smoke and ash linger, but hunger makes them completely welcome. The scholarly community is not in agreement about whether early mornings in winter were filled with hope or dread. Some suggest they symbolized renewal, concrete proof of survival through another night. Others argue they carried a heaviness, a reminder of the day's struggles ahead. You sense both currents in the cave. Relief mingles with resignation. Sleep has officially ended. Endurance begins again. Voiceover. The children rise first, always the most restless. They quickly scurry toward the glowing wall of snow, pressing small hands against it, laughing at the cold. Their joy is infectious, proof that even in the harshest winters, life holds room for play. Adults follow more slowly. Their eyes are still heavy. Their bodies are sore but ready. The rhythm of night yields fully to the rhythm of day. You inhale deeply, feeling the cave's air shift as bodies stir, as the fire revives, as the dawn fully asserts itself. Sleep has successfully carried you. Dreams have guided you, and now waking asks for your presence. You stretch, your bones creaking yet your heart steady. The cave has given you another night of vital protection. Morning thanks must now follow. Your gaze lingers on the faint light, edging past the snow barrier. Soon, someone will clear it, and the outside world will return. Cold, vast, merciless, but undeniably real. For now, though, you savor this in-between moment where night has not fully departed and day has not fully arrived. It is a pause, a breath, a reminder of constant continuity. Voiceover. You close your eyes briefly once more, leaning into the hides, listening to the laughter, coughs, crackling fire, and dripping water. Even in waking, the lullaby continues. The cave remains fully alive, carrying you from one cycle to the next. The faint dawn has grown much stronger now, pressing insistently at the blocked entrance. The snow that once insulated and guarded you now glows like a massive lantern wall, pale gold easily seeping through small cracks. One or two adults move toward it, scraping with antler tools and sticks, actively breaking a path back to the waking world. The muffled hush that held you all night begins to crackle and shift. Archaeologists studying seasonal camps note that such clearings of snow or brush often marked the true, definitive start of the day. It is widely accepted that families would slowly reopen the cave, letting in necessary air, light, and the urgent sense of the outside world. You see it here, the pile of white crumbling inward, cold gusts rushing across the chamber. The sudden shift is jarring after so many hours of deep warmth, yet it is also invigorating. Voiceover. You pull your hides tighter, shivering slightly, but your eyes brighten immediately. The world beyond is rapidly returning. Outside lies hunger, the necessity of hunting, and hardship, but also immense possibility. The cave has fulfilled its duty, cradling you through another night. Now, its role shifts from protective womb to mere shelter, a background for the day's necessary work. A curious little discovery at some Ice Age sites. Traces of footprints around entrances suggest that people often lingered there at first light, carefully adjusting slowly to the day's glare. Imagine them stepping cautiously into the snow, blinking at the vast horizon, stretching cramped muscles. You can almost feel that impulse in your own legs, eager yet hesitant, caught between guaranteed safety and absolute necessity. Scholars continue to debate whether prehistoric mornings inspired awe or dread. Some insist dawn was widely celebrated, proof of survival. Others argue it brought anxiety, the heavy weight of tasks pressing in. You sense both currents as you watch the group stir. Children laughing at snowflakes drifting inside. Adults groaning at the thought of the day's labor. Life was never simple. Voiceover. The fire flares once more as someone adds resin-rich wood, ensuring warmth for those who remain. The chamber glows brighter now. Painted animals are vivid again. You glance at them and they seem different in the daylight. Less like abstract spirits, more like urgent reminders. Hunt, endure, adapt. The night's dreamlike guardians transform into the day's practical guides. One odd but striking tidbit. In some caves, marks of repeated scraping on walls near entrances suggest deliberate rituals of greeting or farewell to the outside world. Perhaps each morning, gestures honored the cave before departure, simply thanking it for their safety. You imagine touching the wall yourself, pressing your palm against the cool stone in silent gratitude. The group begins to move in earnest. Hides are folded, ashes stirred, children bundled. You sense the steady rhythm of transition, the long stretch of sleep giving way to action. Yet, beneath it all lingers a quiet wonder that such restorative sleep was possible at all in a world of fierce storms, dangerous beasts, and constant hunger. The cave, the fire, the bodies of kin, the whispers of story and dream, all conspired to make rest not only possible but profound. Voiceover. The scholarly community often reminds us that survival was not only about spears or successful hunts, but about a deep resilience of spirit. To sleep soundly, even for just one night in such conditions, was an act of triumph. Your body has felt that powerful truth across these hours. Ache, closeness, noise, warmth, fear, and comfort blending into one cohesive tapestry of endurance. You stand now, stretching tall, feeling the stiffness of stone-born rest in your joints. Yet, beneath it lies immense strength, renewed by hours of surrender. Your ancestors knew this secret well. That sleep, even when imperfect, restores the essential courage to face another day. Children rush excitedly to the entrance, squealing at the sudden brightness outside. Adults follow, cautious, checking carefully for tracks of wolves or bears. The world is waiting, merciless but beautiful, harsh but sustaining. The night has thoroughly prepared you for it. One dream at a time, one peculiar reflection. Modern research shows that restorative sleep greatly strengthens memory, decision-making, and creativity. Imagine how those gifts shaped the first humans. Each night of dreaming may have sparked new ideas, new tools, new strategies, new symbols that carried them further. Perhaps the very progress of humanity was born not in hunts, but in sleep-filled caves. 1716 to 1830. Scene. The final surrender. Voiceover, you glance back once more before leaving. The fire smolders, the walls gleam, water drips, soot lines glow faintly. It is not just a shelter. It is an archive, a temple, a womb. A place where survival intertwined with meaning, where rest became a form of profound prayer. To sleep here was to belong not only to family but to the earth itself. And now, as dawn brightens, the cycle completes. You step toward the light, hides wrapped around your shoulders. Your body is renewed. Another night has passed. Another day begins. And so, as the snow-muffled cave gives way to the dawn, You feel the whole arc of the night settle within you. The fire has dimmed. The paintings have watched. The breath of kin has wrapped you. And now light stretches across the stone, soft and forgiving. It is time to leave the dream of the caves behind, but gently, without any rush. You walk out slowly, still wrapped in furs, your breath visible in the morning cold. The horizon glows pale, promising another day. And yet you are not rushed. You carry with you the stillness of the night, the calm rhythm of breath, the quiet wisdom of rest.